Good evening and welcome to tonight's recognition program. I'm Dennis Peterson, Superintendent of Minnetonka Schools. We begin each regular school board meeting recognizing the outstanding accomplishments of students, staff, and community members for their positive impact on our district. Tonight we are recognizing amazing achievements in student extracurricular activities. We're also honoring some outstanding employee continuing education accomplishments. Each year, the Hennepin Theater Trust honors exemplary work in high school theater through its Spotlight Education program. This fall, Minnetonka Theater presented the musical Chicago. In total, the production has earned 20 Spotlight Awards, including Outstanding Achievement in Musical Theater, Outstanding Overall Production, and Outstanding Overall Performance. Now let's hear more from these theater staff and students about this honor.
Congratulations to the cast and crew of Minnetonka High School's fall musical, Chicago. We got outstanding performance from the Hennepin Theater Trust Spotlight Award, and we are so proud of our students. I'm Trent Boyum. I am the artistic director of the program here at Minnetonka High School.
And I'm Jenny Christ, the choreographer for the program.
And we thought we would share with our students some of the comments the adjudicators who sort of presented us with this award sent to us. And we're going to let you hear what they had to say. Jenny, what was your first?
Fabulous. First comment was, what a talented ensemble. The execution of the choreography was standout, whether you were in a big production number where everyone was on stage or smaller ensemble numbers. Bravo. A special mention to the 6 women involved in Cell Block Tango. You all showed 100% commitment and it made for a thrilling number.
Another judge said, I really enjoyed the tone of the whole production. It was tawdry but fun, suggestive but tame in all the right ways, some amazing moments and electric vocals. Every single member of the team on stage has fully committed to telling this story in the most epic way ever. Then for our stage crew, an adjudicator said the production held so many moving parts and all of the students coming together made something great that they were able to share with their community.
Another comment from an adjudicator was, from the named characters to the ensemble, to the orchestra, to the costumes and scenery, all elements work together to tell this story. Bravo.
And finally, congratulations on an amazing production. You have some of the best students in the state of Minnesota. Tell me something I don't know. And then they said, I was wowed. Again, everybody, students on the crew and the cast, congratulations.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Westland, and I'm a sophomore. The most impactful moment of being a part of the crew from the musical Chicago was having a hand in creating the first set that was back on the main stage since COVID. I personally am proud of my leadership in welcoming and teaching new members of our crew. From this, I have gained so many new friendships. I am very proud of how organized my group was in creating an absolutely incredible set, as well as the great teamwork and communication skills my group had during performances. I'd like to thank Minnetonka Theater again for this amazing recognition.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Liu. I'm a senior. I think it's really impactful, the fact that all of us put in so much time and effort into this show, and we really collaborated to put this together after 2 gap years for theater. And I remember that Trent said every numbers in this show is a 10 out of 10. And I'm so proud of everyone, including myself, for presenting these numbers. All of them 10 out of 10.
Hello, my name is Lily Kazora and I am a freshman. The moments that impacted me the most was meeting so many new amazing people. And the thing I'm most proud about our group's performance is how everyone looked so alive and excited to perform. And I think everyone played their parts perfectly.
Hi, my name is Liliana Lee and I am a freshman. For me, I loved being part of the vocal ensemble and being able to work with that amazing group of actors. I consider the most impactful part of the show quite literally being the learning experience and being able to learn new skills and tips and tricks from the people around me. A lot of people haven't been able to be on stage and do a full normal show for quite a while, and I am extremely proud of everyone for coming back and being able to put together a great show.
Hi, my name is Svetlana LaPlatte, and I'm a senior. To begin with, the most impactful moment was definitely getting to greet all the wonderful people who came to see Chicago, as well as being able to make new friendships with people who were from different grades. I would say that I am most proud of all the hard work and commitment that was offered, not only for myself, but also for my peers as well. Lastly, I would say that the group took excellent measures to make everyone feel welcomed, whether people were new to theater or had been many times. Thank you.
From the Chicago cast, we recognize Samuel Abelson, Lexi Beckman, Asha Bushandani, Owen Busselberg, Lucy Butcher, Jackson Deutsch, Harriet Healy, Lily Hockman. Lily also earned an individual honor for outstanding performance in a leading role. Charlie Kanan, Lily Anna Lee, Sam Lewis, Ella Neal, Sam Rosenworn, Naomi Vega, Charles Welsh, Adeline Cardenas, Ashley Enns, Val Kelling, Chase Kickheifer, Emily Kratz, Elliot Lee O'Halloran. Elliot also earned an honorable mention for supporting role. Molly O'Neill, Reagan Alleman, Andy Denhart, Molly Gildert, Haley Kuptel, Ada Howland, Caleb Hunter, Bjorn Johnson, Ruby Carrison, Wilson Lindberg. Wilson also earned an individual honor for outstanding performance in a supporting role. Clara O, Max Purdue, Sean Peterson, Luke Rowan, Joe Harris. Joe also earned an individual honor for outstanding performance in a supporting role. Joe Benson, Maren Busselberg. Maren also earned an individual honor for outstanding performance in a leading role. Jennifer Liu. Jennifer also earned an individual honor for outstanding performance in a supporting role. Alia Lowry Lothar, Emily Moscosko, Sarah Pender, Liam Quinn, Celia Salita, Olivia Salmi, Ella Schindel. Ella also earned an honorable mention for supporting role. Adam Schulberg, Hannah Seaman, and Jane Williams. From the Chicago crew, we recognize Rachel Adio, Viviane Barba, Lena Berry, Chloe Choate, Grace Gablehouse, Viviana Greenlee, Ayana Griswold, Leah Grund, Kate Johnson, Amelia Clemmy, Lily Kazora, Alex Monicati, Ella Morrison, Jake Newman, Sylvia Oakman, Clara Obergfell, Mason Pardo, Rowan Rice, Allie Richter, Anna Rosen, Maren Zabins, Jensen Sanders, Sophia Shokatz, Eva Stavro, John Armstrong, Natalie Ashline, Isabella Bloom, Ava Borderer, KJ Chauhan, Colton Davenport, Joe Douglas, Amelia Erickson, Kieran Frink, Samik Harris, Taylor Hendrickson, Lily Kearns, Louisa Chemnitz, Lily Kruger, Alex Kundal, Abri Love, Anna Matson, Isabella Merriweather Ampero, Scarlett Muir, Marianne Park, Alexandra Rodriguez Maya, Annika Sanchagrin, Elliot Tomlinson, Ava West, Jasmine Westland, Ava Wilhelm, Joy Attio, Ella Bricker, Marcus Carlson, Isabel Chabin, Reese Dawson, Charlotte Erickson, Elizabeth Fleming, Mason Hagan, Brianna Kenny, Lucy Kramer, Sabrina O'Brien, Ben Peck, Liliana Perovich, Jossie St. Louis, Isabella Snow, Ruby Spargo, Julia Cernak, Arsema Tedessa, Catherine Tran, Lily Tunks, Spencer Amon, Caitlin Brown, Genevieve Ish, Amy Foster, Noah Friedman, Stan Gagner, Mara Hansen, Liv Kranzer. Liv also earned an individual honor for outstanding technical leadership. Svetlana LaPlatte, Savannah Lowry Luther, Olivia Newman. Olivia also earned an individual honor for outstanding technical leadership. Arlo Rader, Benjamin Rothman, and Lauren Salmi. We would also like to congratulate the following Minnetonka Theater staff members: Trent Boyum, Mark Abelson, Jennifer Christ, Lisa Kudis, Sue Ellenberger, Jeff Geisler, Jan Battles, Amy Jor, Kelly Tripp, Lauren DeJong, Matt Kudis, Nathan Humanson, and Matthew Defoe. Congratulations again to all. Minnetonka High School has a strong competitive debate team. Through debate, students learn the power of using rational, reasoned arguments and compelling evidence to make a point. They polish skills in researching, organizing information, writing, and, of course, public speaking. This year, the team sent 5 students to the state competition. Let's hear more about the debate season.
Skipper Debate has seen some amazing accomplishments this season. Starting off with congressional debate. In the novice division, we have the best team in the entire state, with Samuel Bloom, Justin Abraham, and Fernando Lucio all being state finalists, and Fernando Lucio being the co-champion of Lakeville, Jamboree, and placing second overall at Robbinsdale, breaking in every tournament this season. Moving on to our JV, Robert Ballsrun was the first place at Eden Prairie House, and our varsity captain Kritika Dama was the second alternate to nationals and a state qualifier. In policy debate, Tommy Robin and Robert Ballsrun qualified for state for the first time ever in Minnetonka history. In Lincoln Douglas, Avika Sakadanadan went undefeated at Minneapolis, and Dabby Fagan placed first overall. Varsity Lincoln Douglas closed out finals at Robbinsdale with Brock Dodds, Molly Welch, and Jin Bang all placing first, second, and third overall, and Ali and Jude winning the online Lincoln Douglas. Jin Bang and Molly Welch both qualified for state, and Molly Welch became our MSHSL state champion. Finally, Brock Dodds and Molly Welch will be representing us at Nationals this spring by placing first and second overall in central Minnesota.
Congratulations to our state competitors, including Karitha Dama in the Congress Division, Robert Balsrud in the Policy Division, Tommy Robin in the Policy Division, Jin Bong in the Lincoln Douglas Division, Molly Welch in the Lincoln Douglas Division. Molly earned the state championship title for the Lincoln Douglas Division, which is an incredible accomplishment. Additionally, 2 students have qualified for the national level debate competition. Congratulations to Molly Welch and Brock Dodds for this achievement. Congratulations to each of you for your excellent work and outstanding accomplishments. The debate team is led by head coach Carissa Hayden and assistant coach Priscilla Bunday. Thank you both for your time and commitment to our students. Minnetonka High School has a vibrant DECA program, and each year our students take home top honors at both the state and international conferences. The purpose of DECA is to prepare emerging leaders and entrepreneurs in marketing, finance, hospitality, and management. In addition to competitions, the high school DECA team participates in community service activities, leadership conferences, and social events. This year, 95 DECA participants earned the opportunity to compete at the State Career Development Conference later this spring. At the state conference, students will compete individually or in small teams in role-playing events related to their areas of interest. Each student will also compete in a 100-question content-specific exam. Scores from the role play, presentation, and test will determine who advances to the international conference. We look forward to announcing Minnetonka's international competitors on the district website this spring. We will now hear from some of the DECA state qualifiers and their advisors, who will share with us about their season.
We had another really strong performance from this year's DECA chapter. 95 students have qualified to compete at the state level.
We are so proud of all of our members, and we can't wait to see what they do at the upcoming state and international competition.
Go Skippers!
My name is Campbell DeLuca and I am a sophomore. The first time I heard about DECA, it seemed like something super intimidating that I was not cut out to do. But I didn't want to let my fears hold me back, so I went to the first meeting completely blind. Little did I know that DECA would serve me so well. Learning to communicate in an effective manner and presenting myself with confidence will not only serve me in my high school career, but will greatly serve me down the road.
Hello, my name is Dominic Chacho and I'm a freshman. Something impactful about this activity is getting to learn what it's truly like to be in a business environment. And now since I have done this activity, I feel that I'm ready for things that I wouldn't have been ready for before if I didn't do this. Something I'm most proud of is how well I did in my interview. In my first event, I didn't do the greatest, and after I felt down and felt like I could have done better. But then once I did my interview, I felt I did great and I was super excited to see what happened. And when I saw that I made it to state, I was so happy.
Hi, my name is Kieran Holland and I am a junior at MHS. To start, I would like to say the most impactful moment of the DECA State Qualifier event was learning more about myself and my interests. I know it sounds very cheesy, but doing the sports and entertainment team roleplay with my partner, who also happens to be one of my best friends, taught me about my love for business. Beyond that, when we got called for first place in our event, we were super excited. One last thing I would say is how helpful VANTAGE has been for me in this process. Not only have I learned more about business terms, but it has prepared me for more real-world situations like the roleplay we did. Overall, I loved the experience.
Hi, my name is Peter Chacho Jr. I'm a junior in high school, and the most proud I've been on my team for DECA State, qualifying for DECA State, is just our ability to adapt and react to changes that need to be made, changes in formatting, changes in scheduling, and changes in our slide and script, and just being able to adapt and overcome any challenges we had and make it to state.
The following students have qualified to represent Minnetonka at the DECA State Conference: Bryce Alexander, Marley Barrett, Charlie Bendel, Lauren Bott, Lucy Beecher, Leo Boehm, Sawyer Booten, Mara Boyko, Anna Brandt, Maggie Brandt, Joey Brush, Maria Camilli, Liam Cassidy, Aidan Chalmers, Aman Chaudhry, Ava Chen, Dominique Chacho, Peter Chacho, Campbell DeLuca, Javi Dia Schultz, Julia Dirks, Lainey Dodd, Regan Donnelly, Eileen Dosev, Mackenzie Arasov, Griffin Fanning, Reese Fanning, Kate Foster, Ella Fremgord, Molly Fries, Carter Fries, May Fritzy, Noah Fu, Kieran Holland, Elizabeth Hapka, Samik Harris, Perrin Hill, Abby Hoekstra, Ryan Holzer, Karina Ezrani, Bradley Johnson, Lauren Johnson, Abby Johnson, Sophia Johnson, Georgia Jorgensen, Jenna Klein, Bridget Koller, Lily Kowal, Jenna Kruger, Bryce Lisinski, Walker Liu, Daniel Lorenz, Amelia Ballot Harvey, Lucas Martin, Cole McLaughlin, Kate Mindak, Evelyn Noah, Livy Nordvold, Julius Nurse, Carter Nye, Camden O'Brien, Alex Ortega Ho, Ellie Otteson, Zach Peterson, Diego Pitt, Surya Polovarti, Justin Radel, Mayin Ramatula, Emma Rieger, Johnny Rice, Ella Roberts, Sophia Roberts, Juliana Rosner, Mayan Samir, Keelan Sampson, Jack Sand, Nolan Schmidt, Anita Scromain, Sawyer Smith, Soyam Sodi, Eric Soltau, Solon Samia, Tom Stevenson, Athu Sukani, Mia Tasami, Toi Thomason, Ian Tripp, Annika Albrecht, Joel Vellier, Elizabeth Wong, Logan Warren, Jocelyn Wartneck, Evan Wenzel, Annie Joe, and Jacob Zills. Students, we extend the district's congratulations and best wishes for success at state. We also extend great thanks to Minnetonka's tireless DECA advisors who continue to lead students to incredible levels of success. Stephanie Lolich, Andrew Werner, Carrie Benson, and Kate Betterman. 10 staff members from Minnetonka Community Education have received the Certified Program Planner designation from the Learning Resource Network, the world's largest association for continuing education and lifelong learning. To earn this distinction, staff members completed rigorous professional development and passed an exam. As certified program planners, these individuals bring a high level of knowledge, professionalism, and leadership to their roles with Minnetonka schools. Let's hear more about this achievement.
Good evening, Dr. Peterson, Mr. Chair, school board members, and community. Minnetonka Community Education is here tonight to celebrate our newest and our former CPP members. Jenny Bedurka is here to tell you just who they are and what that means.
The Certified Program Planner designation provides professionals in the field of community education and lifelong learning with knowledge in the areas of needs assessment, program development, finance, budgeting, promotion, and customer service. To earn the designation, coursework must be completed along with passing an exam.
The MCE CPP members are Jenny Bedurka, Molly Bonneman, Louise Weir, Jeremy Johnson, Anna Osheim, Josh Benish, Amber Trapp, Amber Yang, Jessica Peters, Lindsay Richens, and Nikki Stalker.
Congratulations to our team for their hard work and dedication to earn this designation. We're very proud of you and the important work you do in our community to support Minnetonka families.
Congratulations to each of you, and thank you for your contributions to our community. We will now recognize our certified program planners, Molly Bonneman, Josh Benish, Jenny Bedurka, Jeremy Johnson, Anna Osheim, Jessica Peters, Lindsay Richens, Nicole Stalkar, Amber Trapp, Louise Weir, and Amber Yang. That concludes our recognition program this evening. Thank you for joining us. The school board meeting will begin shortly.
That's a lot of money.
It's like this much.
But I'm new here.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening.
We did well.
I'd like to call the February 3rd, 2022 Minnetonka School Board meeting to order. Let's all rise and say the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. Can I have a motion to adopt tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Lisa, second?
Second.
Mark? Any discussion or changes? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have an agenda. Our first agenda item is our school report from Scenic Heights. Dr. Pearson.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, it's always a pleasure to have Scenic Heights present to us, and Joe Walker and his team are here tonight to give you an update on some things that are happening at Scenic Heights. So, Mr. Walker, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. Mr. Chair, distinguished board, I really am excited to be here tonight. I am the team, though, so I am the Scenic Heights team. We really want to highlight tonight a pilot that we're doing called a student support paraprofessional. One of the things we've noticed is, obviously during the pandemic and even before that, students come in that have increasing pressures on them, and they're not getting some extra help they need. They're kind of in a gray area. So the students are challenged to their success. They're undiagnosed, or they may be diagnosed medical conditions such as ADD, ADHD, OCD, or they could just have a lot of anxiety. We also have social emotional challenges, and a lot of these can come from, family change and, again, anxiety. And so with that unstructured time, they struggle. And when they struggle emotionally, they're not learning academically very well. Some of these students will qualify for interventions later on, but a lot of them come in without any help and do not qualify yet. So what we've done is we've created a student support paraprofessional, and what we do is she provides interventions for these students before they qualify for any other interventions. This position is overseen by our social worker and counselors, and they really support the class. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're doing with that. So it's really a proactive approach. Some of these students just need simply to get the wiggles out of them, so they just need maybe a motor break. And so we try to put things in that we are successful with once students do qualify for interventions. So these are some of the lists of the interventions. Motor breaks. So if you go to the school, there might be a block of time between a language arts block and a math block where the teacher says, the student really could use some movement. And so this person will then schedule that time, maybe take them out in the hall and play catch with them with a ball, or walk them around the school. And then while they're doing that, they're building that relationship with those students as well. There are also behavioral interventions, and so what they might do is set goals with the students and then go out and meet with them and see how they're doing in meeting their goals. But again, they have another adult that has time during the school day to really listen to them and really build those relationships, along with the teacher, of course, and everybody else. And then they can add more supervision to problem areas. Let's say we're struggling in the Gaga pit during one of our grade levels. That person can be an extra set of eyes there just to really help people. Or if there is a struggle, they can help really problem solve that position or that place where there's an issue. And then some students are identified by SABRs as being at risk, and some of those students qualify for interventions, some don't. And so they're able to, again, set goals and have another adult, and they'll check in and check out with those students daily just to see how they're doing and work with the teacher as well. So it's really been exciting. It started out a little bit where we didn't have a lot of data, so it wasn't as scheduled, but now really I would say behavioral interventions and motor breaks are about 60% of what they do. 20% is probably interventions, and another 20% then probably is the check in and check out. So it's really been successful for us so far. So this is some of the feedback from teachers and families, and again, this hasn't only been going on since the beginning of the year, but really, I don't know if you can read that, but I can read some of them. The first one is there are a couple of days that the person was absent or subbing, and the student was sad and was not at all motivated, and it said, "You are such a positive connection to her." And it's the next one, it's very helpful when you check in with such and such. It really helps if you turn one of the visits into a motor break as well as the check-in. Your discussions help the person really understand everything is all right. And then I think such and such is ready to graduate from the program. He's been doing very well. He has been making progress as well. Thank you so much for your help and support. And finally, we're so grateful for your support this year. The students you work with are lucky to have your support. So it really is neat to see this person really come in and really be proactive. And we're really seeing fewer behavior problems because of that. And so when students are more connected to the school that way, they can go to their lessons and learn academically and be prepared for that. So that's been something that's been super exciting this year at Scenic Heights. We hope to continue it, but we hope to have more data too that we pull in as we see students and are successful. And it'll be interesting to kind of look at the students that we're working with all year to see how many of them will move on and get more interventions and qualify for more, and how many were there for maybe 3 weeks, they got adjusted to the school, and then they can move on. So we're pretty excited about that. So that's our board presentation for this evening. I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Principal Walker. Any questions? Lisa?
I just have a comment. Thanks for taking this pilot on. I think it's a really great way to look at things from a different angle and a different lens, and it seems like you're making a great difference for kids, so I look forward to hearing more about it as it progresses.
Thank you.
Just clarification, I'm really excited about this also because I think students being tied to somebody at school is so important. About how many kids do you think have benefited so far this year?
I would probably say 25 to 30. And again, these are all kids that wouldn't be getting any extra help whatsoever, so that's why it's pretty exciting.
Any other questions from the board?
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Peterson, we're a little bit ahead of schedule. We aren't slated to start community comments till 7:25. Do you want to start the communications on goals, or?
No, let's go ahead and start community comments.
I think we have enough community comments to get us past 7:25, so board is okay with that?
Absolutely.
Okay. We have now reached the time for community comments. Community comments is an opportunity for the public to address the school board on an item included in this agenda and in accordance with the guidelines printed on the reverse. We have quite a few, so I'll read the guidelines for community comments. Welcome to the Minnetonka Schools Board meeting. In the interest of open communications, the Minnetonka School District wishes to provide an opportunity for the public to address the school board. That opportunity is provided at every regular school board meeting during community comments. Anyone indicating a desire to speak to an item included in this agenda, except for information that personally identifies or violates the privacy rights of employees or students during community comments, will be acknowledged by the board chair. When called upon to speak, please state your name, address, and topic. All remarks shall be addressed to the board as a whole, not to any specific members or to any member who is not a member of the board. If there are a number of individuals present to speak on the same topic, please designate a spokesperson that can summarize the issue. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Longer time may be granted at the discretion of the board chair. If you have written comments, the board would like to have a copy, which will help them better understand, investigate, and respond to your concern. During community comments, the board administration listen to comments. Board members or the superintendent may ask questions of you in order to gain a thorough understanding of your concern, suggestion, or request. If there is any follow-up to your comment or suggestion, you will be contacted by a member of the board or administration. Please be aware that disrespectful comments or comments of a personal nature directed at an individual, either by name or inference, will not be allowed. Personnel concerns should be directed first to a principal, then to the executive director of human resources, and then to the superintendent, and finally in writing to the board. We have, like I said, we have quite a few community members that wish to come up. I will, as we've done in the past, I will start my timer for your 3 minutes. I will ask that once you hear the timer go off, that you finish up and allow the next person to go in. Also said this in the past, we have quite a few people in the room. Please refrain from making any comments or suggestions or body language. It's not easy being up here. I know we make it look really easy, but it isn't. It's very stressful, and so this is the time for you to share your information with the board, which we very much appreciate hearing. So please don't do anything that intimidates or makes it any more uncomfortable for people to come up. Also, I noticed that there is a few, I think, families that have joined us. And so I would just call to our guidelines that if there's a number of individuals present to speak on the same topic, please designate a spokesperson that can summarize the issue. We want to hear from everybody and give everybody the opportunity to speak to the board, but I would ask if those families, I will call up together. We will give you as much time as you need. We'll start the 3 minutes because the same family talking about the same topic really is a group. So, and if we need more time, we'll go from there. Okay? All right, first up is Joanne Quackenbush to talk about the Safe Learning Plan. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Joanne Quackenbush, Chanhassen. We're in the district. I have 3 kids in this district, junior and twin boys in 8th grade. So just some comments about the mask mandate. So I'll just run down my ideas here, my facts. So the government response to the COVID-19 virus has been and continues to be a fraud. The vax has not proven safe nor effective. The government and mainstream media have instilled fear, false evidence appearing real, into those who watch their programming. It's called a plandemic, not a pandemic. It's not true. Why were masks and mandates never implemented with the threat of bird flu, the seasonal flu, etc.? Never in the history of our country have masks been mandated. Why? This is no different. Countries are starting to wake up, and the lies that we've been told by our government are starting to be found out. The Association of Metropolitan School Districts, the 2021 funding, shows that Minnetonka School District is receiving $4.6 million from 4 groups. Where is this money going? What's it being used for? I would like to know. Why has the district accepted this money? Where is it going? I believe it's being used to force masks on our innocent kids, put vaccine clinics in our schools, coerce our minor kids to get the jab without parent consent. Are we a school or are we a medical clinic? Tonka needs to stay in its lane. Several points. A psychiatric nurse spoke out at a Bemidji School District Board meeting last week to bring attention to mental health issues that she has seen arise in children who are forced to wear masks. I quote her, "As we know, children are at an extremely low risk for death, hospitalization, and other adverse events from COVID. Kids are 3 to 4 times more likely to die from the flu and are 10 times more likely to die from suicide," she disclosed, and she's a nurse. She said she has seen intense and significant increase in mental health problems for kids related to mask wearing, including depression, anxiety, hopelessness, helplessness, uncontrollable worry, and feeling overwhelmed. Irritability, anger, negative moods, difficulty sleeping, difficulty concentrating, change of appetite. She could go on, she said. She has also seen an increase in even more severe and worrisome behaviors, like self-injury and suicidal thoughts and intentions. We're talking about kids in their single digits, less than 10 years old, okay? The following countries announced the cancellation of all quarantine procedures: corona tests and compulsory vaccination, considering corona just a seasonal flu. 11 countries so far that I've seen as of today: Turkey, Brazil, Britain, Sweden, Spain, Czech Republic, Mexico, El Salvador, Japan, Singapore, and Denmark. It's all done. They realize that it's a big plandemic. Chemical cocktails found in face masks from an eco-textile source states, top German scientists have found that wearing certain type of face masks for long periods of time could result in potentially hazardous chemicals and harmful microplastics being inhaled deep into human lungs. Bottom line is, masks don't work. We've seen the scientific data. Stop masking our kids. Let them be humans. Let them see the faces of their colleagues. Stop the mask mandate. It doesn't work.
Thank you. I assumed we were all in agreement in the guidelines that I put out before, so I'll repeat. I appreciate everybody that is here, but please refrain from applause or comments or anything. Again, I've said this before, it isn't a popularity contest of one speaker or the next. This is the speaker's chance to talk with the board and applause and all of those things. So I hope that we can continue community comments, and we will do so as people follow the guidelines, okay? All right, thank you. Next up, I believe, is a family, Katie and Meredith Gillies, that are both here to talk about the Safe Learning Plan. So I would ask that you both come up together. Let's start there, and we'll see. All right. Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you for your time. My name is Meredith Gillis, and I live in Minnetonka. So I'd just like to say a few words about my opinion on the mask mandate in regards to the Safe Learning Plan. In my opinion, the mask mandate is hurting way more than it is helping. I had briefly talked to a doctor, and he informed me that the mask mandate, that wearing a mask even for a few minutes can greatly reduce your oxygen levels, and it is very bad for your health to wear a mask. No one should feel lightheaded or like they're going to pass out because they have to wear a mask. I have personally experienced my friend passing out multiple times because she was wearing a mask. In addition, what's the point of having a mask mandate when the majority of the kids at my school don't even wear it properly, much less wear it? I see the majority of kids wearing it below their chin or nose. This way, COVID can still spread if they're not wearing it properly. What's the point of having the mandate if no one's going to wear it properly? In conclusion, I believe the mask mandate is not helpful, and I would like to request that the masks be optional. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Katie Gillis, Meredith's mom. 13-year resident of Minnetonka. We live in the school borders of Minnetonka. I'm here tonight as well to address the mask mandate. I was driving home the other week from the grocery store, and I realized the mask mandate at the middle school has been in effect since the fall of 2020, and it's 2022. My daughter in middle school has worn a mask her whole middle school career. At one point, she came home and said she couldn't play her flute without her flute mask. And I looked at her, I'm like, what is a flute mask? It's a mask that has a slit so you can play. So we go to lunch and there's plexiglass everywhere. They can't breathe. They can't go above the plexiglass. You have to socially distance. You have to walk this way, walk in one straight direction. And then you go to band and put on your flute mask to blow air. It just contradicts everything we're doing. My older daughter is a heavy breather. In middle school last year, she was in middle school and was having a lot of trouble, feeling like she might pass out, visited the nurse's office multiple times. Finally, 3 weeks before the end of the second quarter, she was in the nurse's office. It was so bad, we said, we're done. We can't do this. And online school, she went no notice. As her parent, it's my obligation to protect my child and do what's in her best interest. And she didn't object because she didn't want to feel like she's going to pass out anymore. Now there's a mask mandate at the high school again. Every night I talk with her and ask how she's feeling. Are you lightheaded? If you feel lightheaded, go to the nurse. If anyone says anything, I'm going to take care of it. You're my daughter. I'm going to do what's in the best interest of you. I bring up these situations because it really makes me wonder, what is the purpose of the mask mandate? What is it really about? Is the mask mandate about doing the right thing for everyone? What is so wrong with having a mask choice? Those that are going to want to wear a mask, they will. Those that don't want to or that can't because of physical issues, they will not. But that doesn't mean that those who are choosing not to mask are going to go to school or go wherever and be sick and spread those germs to everyone. I'm almost done.
Please finish.
The one message that I've heard given from certain people is do the right thing, Minnetonka. Do the right thing. If we're imposing these mask mandates on students, aren't we essentially telling them you don't know how to do the right thing? I have to tell you what the right thing is? And then what message is that sending to these kids, young and old? You can't make any choices, you don't know what to do. We're taking away their power to think for themselves and make good decisions. In closing, I just want to leave you with 2 questions. What is the end goal for mandating masks? And when are we going to meet this magic goal so that we can finally be done and move to mask choice?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Shannon, I think Hoban, to talk about the Safe Learning Plan. Welcome.
Good evening, thank you. My name is Shannon Hoban. I was previously in the district. I moved out, however, I have chosen to keep my kids in the district. I have 1 child at the high school and 1 at the middle school. I am asking you tonight to please remove the mask mandate for K through 12 and allow for mask choice. Parents have the right to choose what is best for their children. Students in grades K through 8 have been wearing a mask every day for 1.5 years. Think about that. They haven't seen their friends' faces. They haven't seen them smile. Short-term mask wearing is one thing, but it's naive to think that long-term mask wearing is not negatively impacting these children. Think about it, emotionally and developmentally. It's also affecting their quality of education because teachers now are more focused on whether a student is wearing their mask appropriately than teaching. My daughter told me last week she had a teacher stop instruction 5 times during the hour to ask students to put their masks on appropriately. That's a problem. All to potentially protect kids who are at extremely low risk for severe illness, less than the risk of flu. Alyssa Perkins, the Director of Infectious Disease Management in the ED of Boston Medical Center, spent most of 2020 imploring everybody she could mask. In the beginning, she said it was to flatten the curve, and later to protect the vulnerable. But masking, she said, was intended to be a short-term intervention, and she believes we haven't talked enough about the drawbacks of mandating it for kids long-term. It's time to stop burdening our kids to protect others. The majority of students wear cloth masks, which might reduce the chance of the current variant Omicron transmission by 10% going out and 10% going in. And that's if it's a well-fitting mask and worn appropriately. Think about that. We are forcing children to wear a mask for a potentially 10% reduction in transmission. For anyone who fears moving away from universal masking mandates, the great news is that they can continue to wear an N95 mask, which protects the person that's wearing it, along with being vaccinated, boosted, and live a low-risk life regardless of what others around them are doing. There are many public schools districts in Minnesota who have been operating all year long without a full mask mandate for K through 12, with a similar rate of positive cases as Minnetonka. Has Minnetonka been talking to these school districts to see what are they doing? What's working for them? If not, why haven't we been? Why isn't Minnetonka looking at the number of students who currently have natural immunity and have tested positive for COVID in the last 90 days or less? The vaccine is now available for families who choose to vaccinate their children. It's now time to remove the mask mandate across all grades. And I will say today, Maple Grove and Osseo just announced a new model. They will be removing the mask mandate for K through 12, and they're looking at absence rates, so something to think about.
Thank you. Next up, we have Nicole Nayetz-Kleva to talk about the Safe Learning Plan.
Good evening, board members.
Welcome.
I want to talk about 2 things today real quick. I want to talk about the survey regarding masks, just a little cleanup, and then about the harm that masks can cause. First, about the survey. At the study session, we heard a lot about the majority of people that participated in the survey, the students at high school, wanted masks. So I actually looked at the survey results. Question 8, question 9 talk about masks, and the reality is 56.85% of the students at high school did not want a mask. Now again, math is not my strong suit, but I'm pretty sure that's a majority. Only 23% wanted a mask. That's the minority. What is interesting is that the amount of students at the high school that wanted a mask is 641 students. We have 3,300 at the high school. That's a mere 19%. That's as minute as you can get. The results for teachers is conflicting. Teachers said everything works great. 52% wanted it to stay the way it is, which means no masks at the high school or recommended. But then the next question is conflicting. Then they all of a sudden said, no, we want masks at all grade levels. So those two questions clearly were in conflict for the teachers. I brought a bunch of studies today, a summary of studies regarding harm in masks. At the study session, board members said, we can put the masks on, there is no harm. There is no downside. I was flabbergasted. There have been parents up here, numerous parents, that have come and spoken specifically about the harm their children have experienced from masks. Very drastic harm. And I summarized those. So we had a mom that came up, continuous staph infection on skin surrounding mask all school year, got better over the weekend, got worse every weekday. Seizures. We had kids that had repeated seizures. Those are the kids that we don't allow the mask or face covering exemptions. Yes, seizures. Incontinence, headaches, vomiting, weight loss, pulling out their hair due to anxiety from the mask. Speech loss, denial of all special education services. Yes, that's our district. No face covering exemption. We ignore the doctors. We don't care what doctors say because we're educators. We know better. We've denied kids single day of special services, not one day for these disabled kids. Yeah, those are the most vulnerable in our community. Suicidal thoughts, loss of sleep, increased heart rates, increased blood pressure, nightmares about mask, reduction of self-worth, panic attacks, Legionnaire's disease, yep, we had that, depression, skin rash, ear rashes, earaches, allergic reactions to mask, learning loss, fungal infections. Those were just the harms that the parents came to this board to talk about, that the administration knows about. So I'm not sure how we can sit here and say there's no harm. There's parents that have come up with specific harm. So I brought a bunch of information. These are studies and articles that combine all studies on masks effectiveness and harm from masks. Now these are only the studies that talk about immediate harm. Again, long-term harm, we have no idea what we're doing to these kids and how it will impact them in 10, 15 years. So I will leave this for the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, I believe it's three members of the Bonine family, Wes, Catherine, and Isaac, to talk about the Safe Learning Plan. I'll invite you guys to come up together.
Hi, my name is Isaac. This is my friend Stanton, and I'm here to talk about the masks. I'm a third grader, and I don't like wearing a mask because it is super hard for me to breathe. And if I have it over my nose, it makes my face go hot. Most days, I do not want to go to school because of the mask, affecting me in a way that is hard for me to breathe. Some people think I get used to it, but it has not been that way. In class, my friends tell me what to do with the mask and boss me around. It is not fair that you get to control me and not my mom and dad. This makes me sad and angry, and it almost brings me to tears. I have even been sent to the principal's office for wearing my mask under my nose because it is hard for me to breathe. It is very hard not seeing other faces. I would like to see my friends' faces and teachers' faces, and that would help me and my teacher get along better. My family already had COVID. I promise if you let me and my brother take our masks off, we will not get anyone sick. So can we please have a mask choice or not? Isaac Bonin.
Thank you, Isaac. Welcome.
Thank you. Catherine Bonin. I'll try to summarize most of what I have to say since a few people have already touched on it. I'm here to talk about the Safe Learning Plan and a mask choice. What happens if we just allow for a choice, guys? We don't even know, our children have never had one. My son came here tonight asking along with many other children in support, and we really deserve answers. They've carried this burden for far too long. We're playing politics with kids' faces by placing restrictive fabric over their nose and mouth that the CDC said itself does not work. This is no longer about safety. Our children have strong, vibrant immune systems, which leave them at the least amount of risk, so why can't we have a choice? News media outlets are also reiterating same messaging around dropping mask mandates. Other countries are dropping them. If you take the vaccination rate of children in our schools plus natural immunity and their robust immune systems, then what is the continued need for this? To justify mask requirements, our school board should provide solid evidence that masking children is healthy and beneficial. My son outlined for you tonight some of his struggles, as I have since August, and this is many children's reality in our schools. When it comes to my children, I am the expert, not the CDC, not the government, and certainly not a school board, but for the last 15 months, I couldn't be the expert and choose what is best for my child because the government took my parental right. We are inches away from leaving the school district, and we do not want to, but because you too have taken my legal parental right to choose what is best for my child's health, you are forcing our hand. You do not own my children, you do not know what is best, and I've told you repeatedly that it's not working, this is not right. We have been compliant to date with no off-ramp, but we can no longer go along with this mandate. It has caused too much negative emotional, social, and physical issues, and I simply cannot let it continue. I am taking my parental rights back. We will ride this Omicron wave out through February 25th, however, respectfully, effective Monday, February 28th, may I please finish? The school board no longer has my husband and I's consent to enforce this policy. My children's beautiful faces will be maskless, and they will not be alone. Other parents and children will follow these same footsteps. I have an army of parents behind me, many of whom sit in this room tonight and sit silently at home for fear of coming forward that just want a choice. So step up the way other leaders have and end these restrictions. What will it take? You are on the wrong side of history, and it is time to make this right for our children now. Allow for a choice. Thank you.
Thank you.
His is a little different, touches on a different aspect. Could he have a minute?
Sure, you can have a minute.
Thank you. I'm not going to be able to follow those two, though, but do my best. So, my name's Wes Bonin. Two young boys in Minnetonka. We are in Excelsior, and I'm advocating for mass choice. More specifically, I want to touch on culture. I'm concerned the unintended consequence of the Safe Learning Plan is negatively impacting our school's culture. It's been easy to identify toxic behaviors lately, such as hate, anger, shaming, and bullying in students, as well as adults. If you've had to endure a toxic culture, you understand how depleting that can be. Every day it feels like you're swimming upstream. It's exhausting and, worst of all, unproductive. Culture is the soul of the community and nearly always dictated by its leadership. Now for a minute, let's look at the big picture. We know good students from good families are leaving Minnetonka, heading to local private schools. Private school enrollments are up in the last 2 years, and most now have waiting lists for the upcoming school year. If we allow the Safe Learning Plan to persist as is, we will likely see more families exit, which could lead to a reduction in enrollment, potentially less money for the district, and make for hard financial decisions in the future. In parallel, local private schools are in growth mode. They need to add staff. There's potential for them to poach good talent from Minnetonka, or maybe it's an attractive alternative for teachers to looking to leave a now toxic environment. Why the exodus? For one, it's culture. The private schools offer families freedom to choose what's best for their kids. Their quarantine policies are less strict, and there is no judgment, no pressure to conform to a restrictive policy.
Thank you, Mr. Bonin. Thank you. Again, please. Next up is Jessica Kosalter to talk about the Safe Learning Plan.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Jessica, and I'm here tonight to discuss the Safe Learning Plan. I stand before you tonight troubled with the fact that our children continue to carry the burden of this pandemic. They are by far the least serious risk for serious illness to this virus, yet have suffered and sacrificed the most, and continue to do so every day. If you don't agree with me, turn on the television and see thousands of unmasked adults packed in sports stadiums for hours, sitting shoulder to shoulder, eating and drinking with absolutely no safety protocols in place. Yet we have to turn to our children, force a mask on them 5 days a week, for 7+ hours per day, just for them to be allowed to attend school to learn. How does that make any sense? How is it that for unnecessary luxuries like sports games and concerts, people can attend and enjoy normally, yet a basic fundamental right to an education comes with more strings attached and protocols than I can stomach? And none of it makes sense anymore. The role of the school board should be to create a fair and balanced learning environment for all children to thrive. The strict one-size-fits-all protocols that you have put in place for our children do not meet that standard, and many children are not thriving. We have provided countless examples over the past year and a half, but have seen no adjustment or accommodation. Masks do not work for everyone. Each and every family should be given a choice to choose what is right for their child. Those that want a mask, I fully support you and your given right to choose. Why can't you support the others and their right to choose, even if their choice differs from yours? There are very real negative consequences that masks have on our kids, and there are very real long-term effects that will impact their future. How is it right that the real social, emotional, intellectual, and physical impacts that our masks are doing to our children have been completely disregarded? You say you consider them, yet every single discussion of the Safe Learning Plan omits them completely, at least for our ears to hear. Your dialogue focuses on details of vaccination rates, quarantine protocols, masks, social distancing, and other COVID protocols. We never hear you talk about the safety aspects that are just as real as COVID. And frankly, in my opinion, much higher risk to our youth than COVID is. A safe learning plan should be inclusive of all safe learning, not just COVID safety. The current plan should be called the COVID learning plan. There is a real mental health crisis happening among our kids, yet you don't have time for that. Is it because there's no government funding for those programs? With all that we've learned about this virus and the availability of vaccines for parents who choose this for their children, we must create a more reasonable and balanced approach to learning for our young children. Why are masks still required when the CDC has said they are not effective at preventing the transmission of COVID? Why are your rules for quarantine protocols still 10-day when the CDC says 5 is fine? Why are we still looking at a one-size-fits-all mandate and we are telling you it's not working? Please take a step back and look at what we've asked our kids to do for the past 2 years. We must begin to consider how we come out of this and return to a normal school environment. It's time to end this. Mask choice for all.
Thank you. Next up is Melanie Winters to talk about the Safe Learning Plan.
Hi, I'm Melanie Winters. I live in Excelsior, and I'm here to speak about the Safe Learning Plan. As a Minnetonka alumni, a former math and logic teacher, local business owner supportive of your VANTAGE program, and now a parent of a daughter enrolled to start kindergarten in the fall, it saddens me to see the lack of data and logical reasoning behind your policies. We are 2 years into this pandemic. We have a much better understanding of our actual risks and how this virus spreads. According to MDH data taken on January 20th, I think, on their weekly report, our most at-risk group, the 15 to 19-year-olds, has a 0.09% risk of ICU hospitalization and a 0.004% chance of death. That's 0.004 of 1%. The 5 to 9 and 10 to 14-year-olds are at even less of a risk. To put into perspective, we've had 7 COVID deaths among this population in over 2 years, or in this 2-year pandemic. In the last 9 single-year flu seasons, pediatric deaths have ranged from 2 to 10 yearly. Our risk for teachers is also incredibly low, but 3 minutes isn't enough to share those numbers. To tie mask mandates to vaccine rates is wrong. The current vaccine does not stop the spread of COVID, so what are you trying to accomplish by pushing the vaccine so hard? You're trying to get our kids' risk of severe illness and death to even less than the 0.009% to 0.001% that it already is. Explain to us how that makes any sense. Maybe once a vaccine is out that protects against all variants or all coronaviruses or actually does something to prevent the spread, we can revisit your drive for pushing vaccines. But until that happens, tying mask mandates to vaccine rates is totally misguided. For a glance at a place that seems to still have a shred of common sense and integrity, we can look to Sweden, who isn't even recommending the vaccine for kids 5 to 11, with one of their health agency officials saying, with the knowledge we have today, with low risk for serious disease for kids, we don't see any clear benefit with vaccinating them. So please share with us what your goal is. Because right now, the only thing you seem to be accomplishing is building up fear and harming students and teachers' mental health by scaring them into thinking they need to wear masks for 7+ hours a day for years on end, lest their loved ones or themselves die. The developmental impact this is having on our youngest learners is being studied now, and initial findings seem to show that it's significant, yet you continue to ignore the science. I've emailed you all yesterday an article that clearly lays out some specific cases against masks in schools. Although you could take your pick out of any major media outlets, as most of them are publishing pieces from credible professionals calling for an end to mask mandates. I'd like to set up a time to sit down with you and have a meaningful conversation through all of those points to find out where your hesitancies still lie, because it just doesn't make sense and I'm trying really hard. The fact that I even have to consider looking at an alternative schooling for my daughter simply because our school district is failing to make decisions rooted in data and science is disgraceful. So I hope you stop leading from a place of fear and emotion and start looking at the facts. I look forward to sitting down with you and continuing this conversation.
Thank you. Next up is Suzanne Schaer to talk the Safe Learning Plan. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Suzanne, and I live in the district. And as part of our district's Safe Learning Plan, students and staff are still being encouraged, and it's in writing on the website, to get the COVID vaccines as soon as possible. It's amazing to me, with all the information and publications available, that the district continues to push this risky practice. The most recent VAERS, Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System numbers, which can be accessed via the cdc.gov website as of January 21st, 2022, as a result of taking one of the COVID vaccines, there have already been 25,666 deaths and over 1.15 million adverse events, including myocarditis, blood clots, neurological issues, and permanent disabilities. Now, there are even a couple of websites where you can enter your COVID vaccination lot number to see how bad your batch is. Well, for each lot number listed, it tells you how many adverse events, deaths, disabilities, and life-threatening illnesses were reported. I looked up the lot numbers of the shots my parents and my husband received in March. And let's just say I didn't feel very well the next day. I just have to block some of these things out, because they may have dodged the bullets of the first 2 shots, but nobody knows the medium to long-term effects. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's troubling to think about getting these specific genetic modification therapies, which are falsely being referred to as vaccines, are like a game of Russian roulette. I don't know about you, but I don't like to gamble in general, much less take unnecessary risks, especially when it comes to health of our young people and loved ones. Interestingly, I recently discovered that the American Heart Association published a warning on November 8th. In the abstract, it stated, "We conclude that the mRNA vaccines dramatically increase inflammation of the endothelium and T-cell inflammation of cardiac muscle and may account for the observations of increased thrombosis, cardiomyopathy, and other vascular events following vaccination." You know, especially as the mother of a child who already had a heart procedure, I don't appreciate that I had to figure this out this late in the game on my own. Why the heck are we not being informed about these risks from our own doctors through media reporting or the CDC or the FDA or the NIH? I want to leave you with one last thought. Whether you are happily lining up to receive a COVID shot or are being coerced into getting it because you don't want to lose your job, We are not receiving informed consent because we are not being told the true risks and even known and tracked dangers of these shots. Please look into these experimental so-called vaccines for yourselves before subjecting your children or yourselves to any or any more of these dangerous injections. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Jen Seneschal to talk about the Safe Learning Plan. Welcome.
Hi, thanks. My name is Jen Seneschal. I live in Excelsior, and I have two beautiful girls at Minnetonka. I'm here to talk about the masks. Did you know that 3 million disposable face masks are thrown away across the world every single minute? That's 129 billion face masks every month. Did you also know that the plastics in disposable masks can take up to 450 years to break down? Not to mention our kids are breathing in this plastic for 8 hours a day instead of fresh air. What a complete waste, especially knowing that it has been proven time and time again that these masks don't provide any protection. And if you're someone that doesn't believe it, it's not me telling you, it's right there on the box in bold letters. It states, warning, this product will not provide any protection against COVID-19. So let me ask you, what are you protecting our children from? Or instead, should I ask, what are you using our children for? Is it money, the ESSER money to be exact? The Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund? Please tell me, how much money is our children suffering every day worth? In order for schools to receive these funds, schools need to agree to universal and correct wearing of masks, modifying facilities to allow for physical distancing, hand washing and respiratory etiquette, cleaning and maintaining healthy facilities, including improving ventilation, contact tracing in combination with isolation and quarantine, and provide vaccination to school communities along with appropriate testing sent home. Doesn't this sound a lot like Minnetonka? So I want to know, how much money are you actually getting? Not even what's posted. Or do I need to submit a FOIA request to obtain this data from you? Did you know that COVID does not exist in St. Michael, Albertville? I was there the other weekend for a cheer competition. I was greeted with a smile, no rules or regulations. 200 girls were having a dance party on the cheer floor, maskless, face to face. Guess what else I learned that day from a parent? That their district didn't accept this government money. Do you know what the difference is between schools unmasked and masked in COVID numbers? Let me tell you, there's no difference. Most of the time, we are actually doing worse. But if we are doing worse, you tell us we need to keep those masks on because we need to protect ourselves. If we are doing better, you say, oh, we have to keep wearing them because they are working, yay. Do you know the definition of physical abuse? It's the unreasonable interference with a child's breathing by a person responsible for the child's care. I hear kids complain daily that it's hard to breathe, but they are not allowed to remove their mask for any reason whatsoever. Even to breathe? Sounds like abuse to me. Now I want to know, what's your end game? On every school board meeting, you are making us wait for the next thing. I'm guessing it'll continue to be this game until September of 2023 when this funding ends. And I'm not okay with this. So I am asking you today, give back the money, take the masks off, stop with these quarantines, and let our children live their lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Faith Stout to talk about the Safe Learning Plan.
Hi, my name is Faith Stout, and I have a son that goes to Scenic Heights. I also have a daughter that goes to St. Hubert's. The difference is I have one child without a mask and one child with a mask. My son is a bubbly, happy-go-lucky. He loves school. He loves Mandarin. He loves the Mandarin program. Every day he comes home, he gets his iPad, he goes into a closet, and he you can hear him say his Mandarin, and he goes in the closet because he doesn't want the teacher to hear anybody else because he wants to make sure she hears him articulate the Mandarin very well. He loves his school. But the other day he said, "Mom, I can't do it anymore. I can't do masks." So I watched this board the last time call a meeting and make a movement to put masks on. Why can't we do that tonight? Why can't we make a movement to take masks off? I think you guys have heard this stuff long enough. We have never heard anything back from the board, from any of our comments or any of our feedback. We stand up here all the time. We've been doing it since October. And it just takes two of you guys to make a motion here and to get the mask off the kids. Not only that, I'd like to see your faces. It makes a difference when I can look at you and I can see your expression instead of just seeing just your eyes. It really makes a bigger difference to us. These masks are destroying our community. These masks are dividing our community. These masks are not doing anything but making exclusion. And we hear inclusion. Let's make everybody count, make sure everybody's being heard. You're not hearing us. If you were, why would you go from no mask at the high school to putting masks on at the high school? I really just would love to actually hear where you guys get up and stand up and explain the points that we've been making for months now and just simply say why you don't agree with what we're saying. We don't yell loud enough, we're not mean enough, we're not writing enough. What does it take? My poor little kid, he just wants to go to school, learn his Mandarin, and smile, see his friends, and just do what he's supposed to do in second grade. And he would like to come back for third grade. But I can tell you, we won't be back if mask is on again next year. And I don't know how many more days I'll handle it with him having a mask on this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Abigail Haker to talk about the Safe Learning Plan. Welcome, Abigail.
Hi. My name is Abby Hacker. I am a 6th grader at MNW, and I'm here tonight to ask the school board to end the mask mandate in the Minnetonka School District. I'm speaking on behalf of my friends and other students that feel the same as me. Masks limit our oxygen intake, which makes us tired, anxious, and sad. We can't see each other's faces the way we used to, so it's affecting how we communicate and get to know each other. But it's not only hard to hear friends, but my teachers too. We see each other on the weekends, we play sports together, we have sleepovers, all without masks, so why can't we go to school without them? If we keep masking until there are no more variants, we'll be wearing a mask until graduation and beyond. Please let us take the masks off. Let's go, Tonka. Can't sink this ship. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Abby. Next up, we have David Evans to talk about the Safe Learning Plan masks.
Can I do a 3-minute audio? It's from a mask documentary.
No. You can send that to the board, that the board.
Like everyone to hear it. It's from doctors.
I
How do I get that to everybody?
I understand, but that's not how community comments works. We can.
Okay. I'll do my best to summarize.
Thank you.
One of my dearest friends has been in the Hennepin County medical system for 28 years. He explains that surgical masks are strapped onto surgeons by nurses. The doctor never touches the mask. They're worn on average for 2 hours, and it's to keep bacteria from dropping into the patient and keep blood from spattering into the doctor. They're worn on average 2 hours, and the nurses put them on, the nurses take them off. This is how a mask generally works. I think even CDC is starting to admit that, well, they've admitted periodically, not great for viral protection. We're sort of all starting to get to know that, yet we continue to do this. I'm going to have to go in no particular order because I can't do my presentation. We would definitely like to know how much money you're getting if you go with masks, and how much money do we lose if we don't use masks. Who would like to know that? Raise your hand. We want to know it, right?
Mr. Evans, please.
No interaction?
Please,
I'm
this is your time to share information with the board.
I didn't know we couldn't do that.
Yep, it's okay,
This is
thank you.
getting more unpleasant every time we come. More tears, more sadness. So this is not easy, as you said. Doing the best I can. I woke up this morning listening to a professor from Cornell. He's disenchanted because they're mandating booster to kids and professors alike. If you want to get to the bottom of all of this, I assume you guys take some of these marching orders from the CDC or the WHO or whatever's going on. But the professor from Cornell, his last wish on this program, smart guy, he's begging anyone and everyone to look into Robert Kennedy Jr.'s book, The Real Anthony Fauci. So we're getting these orders from way up there. How much pharma money, FDA people are going to pharma people are going to FDA, CDC makes money on patents, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm a third generation Minnetonka grad. My dad graduated here. It's becoming almost laughable that if we're taking our orders from these powers and you're seeing academia challenge these powers, I submit for your review, look into that book to find out. He calls it the underbelly of this pandemic. Robert Kennedy Jr., pretty smart guy. So we want to know what money you're getting, what you're doing with it, and we all have to sort of be semi-aware. Masks were meant to protect bacteria from moving around. Viruses go right through masks. So this is becoming so painful. We're hours away from pulling our 10th grader. Hours. We just can't do this anymore. We'll bring her back when you dump this deal. We almost pulled her even when you let the 10th graders not mask because it's breaking our heart to hear what the K through 8 is going through.
Thank you, Mr. Evans.
It's breaking our heart, and we presented, one of our moms is a doctor.
Thank you, Mr.
I gotta
Evans.
say this last piece, please.
Finish up, please.
We presented, one of our moms is a doctor. She presented a stack that big several months ago on the science against masks. Dangerous, just useless, not good, not helpful. Now, where is your stack saying that they're helpful?
Thank you,
gotta
Mr.
give us
Evans.
something, and where did our stack go? And how come we don't talk about it?
Mr. Evans, thank you.
This is painful. This is not fun. But we'd like you to address the stack that we gave you from our doctor.
Next up, we have Chad Herman to talk about the Safe Learning Plan. That's not me.
I'm glad, thank you.
I was going to say, you're
Already cut me off before I started.
You're good, Mr. Herman. Welcome.
Good evening, board members. Tonight, I'd like to talk about the secret sauce. At a board meeting a couple months ago, one of the board members talked about the secret sauce with COVID and how the Minnetonka School District and the schools has the secret sauce. I would actually like to agree with that. The school district does have the secret sauce when it comes to the high school. Looking at the COVID reported data from the Minnetonka School District themselves on the COVID dashboard from the beginning of the school year until just 2 weeks ago shows that the high school had the lowest infection rate of all the school buildings since the beginning of the year, and they had no masks. It was optional only, recommended. The blue line you see here is the elementary schools, and you see how it's peaking left and right from the beginning, while the high school stayed flat. Now, you can argue that it's underreporting at the high school, sure, but it's also underreporting at all the other school buildings too. And if you want to talk about that, just remove the numbers on the left-hand side and look at the trend. Trend doesn't lie. It's flat. You see it. There's one big spike here at the very end, and that was the January 10th, the week of January 10th. Now, the funny part about that is that's the exact same trend that you see in Hennepin County and all the other cities in the metro area that's published by the Minnesota Department of Health. Same exact trend, same exact peak, January 10th. So we're past the peak for COVID right now. So my question is, why did the masks get put on in the high school? Because the high school had the secret sauce, but 2 weeks ago, the school board voted to take that secret sauce and throw it into a safe and cover it up for a while, at least for a month, if not longer. I think the travesty part about that vote 2 weeks ago was that they did it under no advisement of Minnetonka staff or administration. So basically, the school board, on their own, took the secret sauce, put it in a safe so it can't be used, but the worst part was that they fired the cook at the same time. So they put masks on for no reason, no recommendation from staff, but the data clearly shows that the Minnetonka High School, with recommendations of masks and not required, had the secret sauce. So you basically threw the secret sauce away 2 weeks ago for no reason. The only reason I can put, because it's sure not data, because the data is clear on both these charts, very clear. The only thing I could put together was that decision was made for personal reasons and only personal reasons. That there were members on here that personally wanted masks to be at the high school at all costs, and it's there. It's not for the data. You guys need to follow the data. It's clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Herman reminds me, I just want to remind those speakers that I know that some have come and didn't have enough time. If you have comments or you have copies of your comments, or Mr. Evans, a link to your, please make sure to leave that with Jackie or Amy, and we'll make sure to get that to the whole board. So next up is Palmer Nye to talk about the Safe Learning Plan and masks. Welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me, and thank you for letting me have the choice of wearing a mask at this meeting. I like to have the choice of wearing a mask at school. My name is Palmer Nye. I'm a 4th grade at Clear Springs Elementary. I don't like that I can't see my teacher's expressions when I do something right or when I do something wrong. I think it's really gross that we're wearing masks and they get so dirty. If you can breathe through a mask, then you can still spread sickness through them as well. We have to wear them in gym class and I get exhausted. I don't feel like I can breathe very well and sometimes feel like throwing up. I'm very scared at being yelled at if I move my mask because a para scared me so badly it made me cry. Fear is not okay. You as leaders need to do better for us kids. Wearing a mask makes me feel tiny. I feel like the teachers are controlling my health and that's not okay. You are the board making these decisions for me and every other kid. This has to stop. I can't keep wearing a mask every day. I can't stand looking at my friends and not being able to see their faces. I got braces the other day, and my friends couldn't even see what color I got because I wasn't allowed to take my mask down. I'm sick of this. You as leaders are making every kid's education harder than it already has been through this pandemic. Just remember, you're hurting every kid who's wearing a mask. You have a choice to make tonight. Give me the chance to make my own choice. Thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you, Palmer. Next up is Camila Ramos to talk about the Safe Learning Plan. Welcome.
Hello, good evening. Hi, I'm Camelia Ramos. I'm a Minnetonka school parent. The first time I attended the school board meeting was last August when the Safe Learning Plan was going to be discussed. I came because I wanted to understand what metrics are the school board using in putting together the Safe Learning Plan. I'm back here today because many of us are still waiting for that information, both people that oppose masks and both that are pro-mask. They want to know what is the end game or whatever they call that. But so we need to understand what metrics are you using to make those decisions, okay? We had almost 1,000 signatures in our petition requesting the school board to have universal masking and online learning plan when in-person learning is not possible. 2 weeks ago, we want to thank the school board in granting this request to mandate masks at the high school, but it will expire on February 25th. Why is the mandate based on a date instead of data? It's an arbitrary date just because it falls in a day before the study session, and I don't think, we don't think that's actually based on data. It will be beneficial to all of us here if the school board could clearly outline the metrics in updating the Safe Learning Plan. This will remove any confusion among our stakeholders and help our parents, teachers, and staff make preparations if necessary because we all be looking at the same information. The metrics and criteria should be objective and based on data. We teach our kids science, math, all of that, critical thinking, right? So therefore, if you don't believe in science, then why are you allowing your kids to take science at school? Okay? Could we adopt metrics used last school year where we use local case rates and other factors in determining when students stay in person or go to e-learning? We can make adjustment on that based on current COVID conditions and risk. Today, the Minnesota new COVID cases as of this morning is about 10,000 cases per day. When schools, before the recent COVID surge, the highest peak was in November 2020, was 7,000 per day, and we had universal masking. So in 2 weeks, we don't know what the numbers are, but are we going to look at the case rate before we remove the mask mandate at the high school, or are we going to let it expire? We look to the school board to set policies that are the best interest of our school community. This includes expecting the school board to make informed decisions based on scientific facts and data, and not based on popularity. On behalf of the petitioners, 1,000 of them, and 500 more and high school students, who are not able to come tonight because there's no mask mandate in this meeting. We don't feel safe. Many of them are immune compromised. I'm just gonna finish. I would like to urge the school board to extend the mask mandate and set up objectives and criteria to update the Safe Learning Plan. And one more thing I wanna say is, this is community spread. It takes community effort. Wearing your mask means you care about others and not just for yourself. Because you may not die, it may be low risk for you, but it's not for others.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Sammy Gervais to talk about the Safe Learning Plan.
Good evening. My name is Sammy Gervais. I'm a parent in the district and I live in the Shaker Heights neighborhood. I want to thank the board for doing the right thing at the last school board meeting, for requiring masks for our high school students and staff, and for doing what you can to make our community a healthier place. As a parent of a child still too young to be vaccinated, I acutely feel how interconnected our community is, how risks and exposures in one group impact the unwitting exposure in another. My son's class at the Minnetonka preschool had at least a 15% positivity rate last week, with 3 out of the 20 students confirmed positive. I've taught pre-K. 4-year-olds are adorable, inquisitive, energetic, and have 0 sense of personal space. The only thing keeping my child from sneezing directly into your child's eyeball is a mask. Even with their best efforts, there's no way his teachers can effectively social distance a class of 20 in their small classroom. Despite multiple school and bus exposures, knock on wood, we have yet to have a positive test in our household. And I recognize that I'm now tempting fate. I credit that to the masking policy in the Minnetonka preschool and in my daughter's elementary classroom. We've done the right things, we've kept them home when they're sick, we've screened them regularly regardless of symptoms, but we can't control what others do. We can't control when they have birthday parties unmasked. We can't control when the substitute in the high school is exposed and then a week later, substitute teaches in my son's completely unvaccinated classroom. It drives home how interconnected we are. When the board decided to require masks in the high school, they made us all a little bit safer. We don't want masking forever, but there is a recent study by scientists at Yale that found that daycares that enforced masking policies had significantly fewer closures than those that did not require masks. And for many families in our district, those precious in-school days have been essential. Masks have reduced quarantines and they've kept our students in school. Thank you. If masks are removed, I won't feel comfortable with my children attending in person. And I'm curious to know if a survey could be done to determine whether parents feel more comfortable with or without masks. That hasn't been something addressed by the board thus far as I know. As much as we all wish to return to normal, none of us want to be in this situation. Now is not the time to ease up on our mitigation efforts. Even in the best case scenario, my son will not be eligible to be fully vaccinated until near the end of the school year. While community spread is dropping, we're likely to follow the trend of other countries where we hit a plateau in cases rather than a valley. Even those calling for an off-ramp to masking note that we cannot and should not take away masks yet. Not while we have half of the Omicron deaths still before us. Not while we lack bus drivers when it's 7 below. Not while unvaccinated classrooms have a 15% positivity rate. I urge the board to extend masking at the high school and not remove masks from lower grades until at least all eligible students have the chance to be fully vaccinated and families can protect themselves as best they can. Please continue to do the right thing.
Thank you. Next up is James Bullington to talk about the approval of the superintendent leadership profile. Welcome.
Good evening, something different, I guess. Superintendent Pearson, Chairman Vitale, members of the board. What you're looking at is an approval of approval of the superintendent leadership profile. I think the idea of just sending out tonight and then approving it tonight is not a good idea. When I do things, I'm a principal architect for a large corporation. I don't just take input and then immediately approve it. I take time to read through it, discuss it, do whatever. So what I'm hoping that you will do is don't approve it tonight, take some time to read it. One of the things with the superintendent is that our current superintendent's been here almost 20 years. That could be the next 20 years in these schools. So again, I urge you to take time, again, go through and look at what the goals are, what this document's about before you just approve it. And I think that's it. I'll keep it short. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Barbara Post to talk about the superintendent's leadership profile.
Hi, my name is Barbara Post and I live in Minnetonka, although I'm a member of Minnetonka United Methodist Church, which is 17611 Lake Street Extension. Tonight I come representing 5 long-standing churches in the Minnetonka area. Our message tonight is that together in solidarity, we support the imperatives of the Minnetonka Coalition for Equitable Education as it relates to our search.
I'm sorry. Please continue.
For the new superintendent of schools.
Mm-hmm.
At this time, I would like to read a letter to that effect.
I'm sorry. How does that pertain to us approving the profile?
We are encouraging in this profile to look real hard at the imperatives that were put forth by MCEE as to the qualifications that they're looking at, and specifically for superintendent of schools.
So you're going to read a list of qualifications?
No, it's just a letter of support.
Okay, I think you could submit that to the board for our approval. I don't think that qualifies under this.
Okay, well, we submit this, and I think we have submitted it already, but I will leave another copy. And I would just like to list the 5 churches that are involved, because these are long-standing churches.
Sure.
Minnetonka United Methodist Church, St. Luke Presbyterian Church, Excelsior United Methodist Church, Trinity Episcopal Church in Excelsior, and St. David's Episcopal Church in Minnetonka.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would just remind the community at study sessions, we can definitely take any sort of comment, but community comments have to be something that's on the agenda. So thank you. Next up is Katie Williams to talk about the superintendent and search leadership profile.
Thank you. I'm Katie Williams. I live in Deep Haven. And I wanted to talk about that leadership profile also, which I think is on your agenda tonight. Is that right? All right. As you prepare to find a new superintendent for our district, I'm here to urge you to keep in mind the importance of educational equity. I'm here on behalf of my congregation, St. Luke Presbyterian, which supports the students in the Minnetonka Coalition for Equity in Education. And we signed on the letter that you received. And as a reconciling congregation, we care deeply that our schools provide each and every student with the best possible education, especially since students have a variety of backgrounds and needs that must be considered. We're concerned when we hear of students who have felt poorly served in our district due to their racial or cultural background, identity, or special needs. The superintendent you hire should be prepared and capable to focus on and remedy this problem. I know that the excellence of our schools is a key factor in the strength and development of our community. We moved here for the schools, and our 3 children got a very good education here, except that our schools did not really prepare them to live and work in the diversity of the world beyond Minnetonka. That was a problem for them and other Minnetonka students as they entered the work world. My career in child development and education was mostly spent in Minneapolis, and of necessity it involved a lot of anti-racism work. I know this is an important topic here in Minnetonka too. Last year I participated in a year-long community seminar and discussion about dismantling racism. Over 100 people from over 11 different congregations signed up and participated every month for a year. Clearly, this is a topic of interest and concern in our district. I know I speak for many others when I ask you to keep equity education top of mind as you consider candidates for our next superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, I have Dr. Melissa White to talk about the Safe Learning Plan.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Melissa White. I'm a board-certified internal medicine physician, and I serve as the chair of the Department of Medicine at M Health Southdale. In my role as a leader, I've been part of the tough decisions that have arisen in my organization over the past 2 years, as have you all here tonight. In my role as a hospital doctor, I care for emergency and ICU patients. I've had the privilege of caring for hundreds of COVID patients alongside fellow dedicated physicians, nurses, and other healthcare professionals on the front lines. And as a part of a university team, we have access to the latest treatment modalities and data in the scientific community. I'm here to express my gratitude for including the high school in the district-wide use of high-quality masks, and I'm grateful that reasonable accommodations have remained in place for special needs children. Tonight, I want to emphasize that there are many outcome measures to consider with COVID-19 infections in children and adults. The measure that gets the most attention is life or death. However, it is not a simple binary outcome. I'm here to inform you about the complications for the survivors. Some survivors experience post-acute sequelae, otherwise known as long COVID, with heart, lung, and brain manifestations. My pediatric colleagues report current post-COVID complications that include new onset diabetes associated with the inflammatory and immune response in survivors. There are now pediatric long-haul COVID clinics being established in academic centers around the country. While there are new and promising treatment modalities on the horizon for adults, the options for kids will take more time. As we are in the fifth of potentially more surges with future variants, it makes sense to consider drawing on the depth of knowledge among district parents who are scientists and clinicians as well as public health experts. Please consider a task force to assist the board and district with future public health concerns. In this way, the district can be proactive instead of reactive in the goal to keep our kids in school without serious interruptions. It's encouraging to hear so many common sentiments among the parents here tonight that want to keep our students in school with in-person learning as much as possible, and I want that too. Let myself and other physician scientists readily available in our own Minnetonka community continue to share our knowledge as we support you with the challenging decisions ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Last but not least, Amy Cho to talk about the Safe Learning Plan and the leadership profile.
Hi, thank you for having me. So my name is Amy Cho. I'm a practicing emergency physician, a resident of the district, and a mom to 3 Scenic Heights students and a 3-year-old. I want to thank you for your work and dedication. I want to share 2 studies with you that were published this week that demonstrate efficacy of masks in schools. 2 large studies, and I'll give them to you, showed that masks significantly decreased, actually almost eliminated secondary transmission in schools. Quarantines were not needed when universal masking was in place. It allowed students to stay in school and be safe despite high levels of community spread. So it looks like we did a pretty good job of making decisions at our elementary schools this year and our middle schools. So masks are an effective tool, and I hope that they remain in our toolbox for maximizing days of in-person school when we need them. So I want to thank you for continuing masking in January. My 3 kids at the elementary school were able to stay in school. They didn't bring COVID home to their younger unvaccinated sister. I was able to continue going to work. I didn't have to call off. I was able to continue caring for patients in the emergency department. We pulled back from recreational activities to protect our youngest daughter, but her older siblings didn't get sick at or from school. What I really want to talk to you about, though, tonight is a study about trustworthiness. There are a lot of voices out here. I'm sure it's hard to know which voices to trust. A study was done among medical residents who are physicians in training in high-stakes environments to identify the characteristics of a trustworthy voice. So these included knowledge and skill, discernment, so knowing your limits and seeking help, conscientiousness, so thoroughness, dependability, truthfulness, and I would like to suggest one other criteria for experts advising you about COVID or the superintendent search or any other important decision you face. And that is the recognition that schools are not recreational, education is not elective, and thus we owe a duty of care to students and families in our public schools. Duty of care means schools must do everything reasonably possible to protect their students from foreseeable harm, injury, and death, and it means providing a safe environment for students. Thank you so much for all of your work. I'll send this stuff to you.
Thank you. We have one more, Paul Gillies, to talk about the Safe Learning Plan.
Hi, long time watcher, first time speaker. What motivates you, right? Everyone comes up here, everyone presents their facts from both sides, and we gotta understand what motivates you. And it's either the money someone talked about, I don't know if that's true or not, or maybe it's fear. Fear is the biggest motivator of people. Or maybe it's power, maybe you're enjoying your control over the children, but I want you to remove the mask mandate. And I'd like you to remove the entire Safe Learning Plan and go back to school as normal. And I took a tally here. There's 4 people that want to keep the mask on the kids. and there's 14 people that do not. So if you're here to represent the community as a whole, that tells a story of the people here tonight and the direction they want you to go to. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to welcome back up Barbara Post to read her letter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I understand where you were coming from on that. This is the letter that was penned by the 5 churches. Dear Ms. Noland, colleagues, and Minnetonka School Board members, as congregations that include past and current families served by the Minnetonka schools, we believe it is critical that the leader of our school district has demonstrated a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion in public schools. Beyond the essential act of creating a safe and supportive learning environment for all students and staff, a commitment to educational equity will also help our students navigate a complex world while celebrating the differences that make us strong as a community. At this juncture, we believe it is critical that the leadership profile for the next superintendent reflects someone with a long-term vision that strives for educational equity in pursuit of excellence. Our next superintendent should be able to evaluate the systems in Minnetonka that might contribute to these inequities and be able to make changes. We, as faith partners across this community, challenge you to pursue excellence in equity and inclusion as you recruit and select the next leader of Minnetonka schools. Doing less would be a mistake. This moment presents an opportunity, not just for Minnetonka schools, but for our commitment as a whole. Thank you. Once again, those 5 churches, Minnetonka United Methodist, St. Luke's, Excelsior United Methodist, Trinity Episcopal, and St. David's Episcopal. One additional note, our Minnesota Department of Education has made equity its #1 priority. We need a superintendent who can meet that challenge. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody that came to speak. That ends our community comments. Next up, we will move to our report on communications results on goals. Dr. Peterson.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, we are continuing to keep you updated on the work going on your goals that you've adopted. And tonight we have Dr. Getty giving you an update on the communications work that's going on relative to the goals. So Dr. Getty, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I appreciate this opportunity to present our communications and engagement efforts across the district in support of this year's school board goals. So our goals this year, as you know, are excellence in student well-being and belonging and excellence in student learning and support. And this evening I'm going to share our district highlights of the ongoing communications and engagement opportunities that we've had with district constituents that reflect this goal work, and then also include all the efforts completed and underway to keep stakeholders informed and involved in the work. I'll also present a bit of an overview on some of our broader communication and outreach projects that tie in the goals from earlier in the school year, and then also that we look ahead to for the rest of the year. So I want to talk about the different ways that we've communicated the goals and that we will, and I really tried to bucket it into different ways that we talk. When I first started this, I reached out to about probably 30 different people across the district who are really actively involved in putting together different aspects of engagement opportunities for their constituents in the schools or in their department or across a staff group or a student group. So it was fun to be able to gather this information. So that will be reflected kind of throughout these. But to start with, one of the ways that I wanted to talk about what we do is to remind people that at these school board meetings and study sessions, ever since the goals were set, the district has provided updates on the work supporting the goals, and that is for the benefit of not only the board to know where we're at with the goals, but also the community to stay informed. Our elementary, middle school, and high school principals have all shared details demonstrating how they're communicating and engaging their students and their parents and their staff in the work of student belonging. And we've heard from several on how aspects of the Safe Learning Plan are also working in their schools this year. And at each regular school board meeting, as you know, there has been a presentation about the Safe Learning Plan. There will be again tonight. And last month, Dr. Amy Ledoux, our Assistant Superintendent for Instruction, presented the results of the Student, Parent, and Staff Safe Learning Plan Survey, which engaged 4,500 students, 3,900 parents, and more than 650 staff. And that resulted in more than 6,000 write-in comments, which were read by all of you and were read by the district's executive leadership team. And general results of the survey were shared with all parents, with students in grades 4 to 12, and with staff. So email updates. Each month we send our school community members the summary of the regular school board meetings in our school board news emails. And these include video clips of each of the agenda items that you have on your agenda, as well as student and staff recognitions, which we start the evening with, and that run before the school board meeting. In the school board news emails, since the goals were set, we've shared the announcement of the goals, the updates by Dr. Ledoux on the goals in January, and the updates of the well-being and belonging efforts by our health services director, our secondary principals, and by some of our elementary principals, as each one of them gives a school report each month. One of them does each month. With regard to web and social and video and internal communications, each quarter the communications team shares about 20 feature stories on the website and through the district's social media channels. And our videographer creates dozens of videos. We consider all of our stories through the lens of world-class child-centered excellence and through our school board goals. We also put our regular internal e-newsletter for staff called the Tonka Insider, which shares information and opportunities for staff every month, out regularly. And we shared recently the announcement, well, we shared in November the announcement of the school board goals, and we will share mid-year and end-of-year updates on the goals in that e-newsletter to staff. And we also added a reminder recently about the free mental health counseling sessions available through our employee assistance plan as we look for ways to support staff's mental health, which in the input that they gave us through the Safe Learning Plan survey results was one of the areas that staff told us was most challenging for them this school year. Okay. Surveys. In December, the district provided parents, children in grades 4 to 12, and all staff with the opportunity to provide input on the Safe Learning Plan through the surveys for each of these groups. And again, this effort engaged more than 9,000 of our stakeholders across the groups. And the district has since administered a survey to its Tonka Online full e-learning families, and Dr. Ledoux provided highlights of that at a recent school board meeting. And the district has administered a survey with the assistance of the Search Institute regarding student well-being and belonging. That survey went to students in grades 4 to 12 and to teachers at all levels in December, and Dr. Ledoux will share those results with the school board in March. For web and social, more on social, we have the school board goals listed prominently on your school board website. And in addition, we announced the goals through a feature web story and social media posts when they were first established. A mid-year update on the goals will be posted on Monday, and an end-of-the-year update on the goals will be posted in late May, early June. And we also have really robust sections on excellence in student well-being, in student belonging, and in all aspects of student learning and support, including our signature programs and our SAIL program on the website. We have sent out a school news postcard every few months throughout the year. That is typically what we do, that highlights programs and information and opportunities for families and for community members. It is sent to all residents in our district, so that's one of the great ways to be able to get out messages to everyone beyond our school community. Our February school news postcard includes a mid-year update of the goals and a link to a longer article that will be on our website with more details about that. And that is at print, so it will be mailed out next week. And in May, we'll include an article outlining the school board progress to that point. As you know, but I'll reiterate for the community, the school board has reviewed the Safe Learning Plan, a component of the Excellence in Student Learning and Support Goal, at every school board meeting this school year. Constituents have come at each meeting, as tonight, and at each study session to share their thoughts directly with the board about the Safe Learning Plan and about other aspects of the school board goals this year, including belonging efforts and opportunities. In addition, the board, of course, has received many emails, calls, and in-person questions regarding aspects of the goals, and the board does typically meet with the PTO and PTA groups as well when that is requested, and I believe at least one of those meetings has already taken place. And we have a new board representative, Megan Sellinger, on the PTO-PTA Leadership Committee, so it'll be great to increase those opportunities as the year goes along. Additional ways the district is communicating school board goals. We do this through traditional media, through our feature stories for the website, for media and video storytelling on items that demonstrate the district's commitment to our goals. Some recent examples are articles that we've written on and gotten into the news about the Momentum expansion and the launch of the SAIL transition program, both of which align with the Excellence in Student Learning and Support goal. And in major publications for the district, like the annual report, the alumni magazine, and our district wall calendar, we do feature subjects that highlight and reflect aspects of student learning and support, student well-being, and student belonging. And the video featured at the high school and then shared across our district social media channels, I'm a Skipper, really elevates student voice and inclusivity and individuality of students. We also have the Skipper Showcase that we run and Beyond 140, which share messages of connection and well-being and inclusion and reiterate aspects of our school board goals. We recently worked with students at the high school to make the TIPS 276 reporting system more accessible through a poster campaign that they helped us design. They're really excited about it. It now has QR codes on it, and it takes you right to the page where you report something. And we've definitely seen an uptick in the use of that tool. And we have Let's Talk on our website, which has fielded a fair number of questions about the Safe Learning Plan throughout the year and other related goal topics. And we've received and responded to hundreds of emails, calls, and in-person meetings. And then finally, I'd just like to share that we have some upcoming efforts where we also plan to share more about the district's commitment to school board goals. One of my favorites is the Celebration of Excellence event, where we're able to highlight the amazing efforts of our district teachers and staff in support of students' learning opportunities, as well as their well-being and connectedness to schools. And I want to encourage everyone to look at the nomination categories and submit a nomination for a teacher or a staff member who you think exemplifies the attributes for that award. Nominations are open now. You can find them a link on the district homepage of the website, and it'll give you all the details of the categories, and it takes just a few minutes to fill out. Our celebration is in May, so we're really excited about that and excited to see nominations come in. And then in May, we administer our annual parent survey. This will be another opportunity to gauge how parents are feeling about the district's efforts this year. And we'll have an end of the year article for the website, social media, and school news postcard on the progress of our goals and highlights of the goals work in the district's annual alumni magazine, which comes out in the summer. And then, of course, we keep track all throughout the year of things that are going on so that we can showcase those goal efforts when we go to put together the annual report, and that happens in October of the next year, so that'll be in the fall. So that's kind of a summary of the ways that we've communicated about the goals thus far, and I welcome any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Getty. Any questions, discussion from the board?
Oh, it's a great report.
Thank you for a great report, and please share the board's thanks to your team as well.
And I should have given a shout out to the, as I said, 30 people who were, that I talked to that were all doing these efforts at their buildings. This has really been fun to see the goals really embraced across the district and by so many groups, so thanks.
Thank you. Great. Next up is the review of our Safe Learning Plan. Dr. Peterson.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Annie Lombard-Benson is not able to be with us this evening, but we had her record a report, so we stay consistent with what we've been giving you over the last several months when you wanted to have this topic on the agenda. So is Amy Ledoux ready?
I think somebody is driving.
Oh, okay. So maybe we'll just go right into Annie's report.
Good evening, Dr. Peterson, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I am here yet again to report on all things COVID in Minnetonka. And the good news is, here on this day in February, we are excited to see some trending down in our numbers. This is the current week's dashboard. As you can see, we have 129 active student cases and 21 active staff cases. When you count in the number of students that are quarantined or excluded, that's around 250 students that are out of school, compared to a month ago when we had about 538, and then 28 staff out of school, the 21 active cases with the 7 quarantined, versus about 88 1 month ago. So again, we're seeing a positive trend in the numbers. We are hopeful that this will continue to decline. And just as a reminder, numbers are not duplicated in the active and quarantined column. They are unique identifying numbers. This again is a graph that just kind of compares last year's school year to this year's school year. This data is as of January 30th, and there is still a pretty significant lag from the Omicron surge. Those case numbers, those orange bars, that's this year, the blue bars are last year. Those case numbers and the bars will certainly increase as the Minnesota Department of Health is able to match the cases with the reports that are coming in. Again, we're seeing some optimistic trends. Certainly the numbers when you look at the end of December versus the end of January are still discrepant, but we are seeing a trend down in where these numbers are coming. So we again continue to be hopeful that that trend will continue. When you look at the 2 weeks prior, we go from 314.8 here in Minnetonka down to 196.0. So again, while these numbers are elevated, we are seeing that trend down. Again, all of the ones listed here are comparable communities near us. The other west suburban cities include Chanhassen, Deep Haven, Excelsior, Fort Snelling, Greenwood, Independence, Long Lake, Loretto, Maple Plain, Medina, Minnetonka Beach, Minnetrista, and Mound. As I've shared with you previously, the positivity rates here in Minnesota, I broke it down according to the age group. So those 0 to 9-year-olds, the beginning of January, the positivity rate was about 23.6. That inched up a little bit higher a week later to 24.3%. And then for that 10 to 19-year-old population, that first week in January, 27.8, second week, 28.3. So obviously we don't have current numbers for this, but with the spike in cases, we may see those positivity rates going up a little bit, but once we get to current data, we would expect those to start falling. Again, anytime that we see a positivity rate over 10%, it is cause for concern. So you can see that these are quite elevated, but we're hopeful that the trend will continue down. This is some national data that I have not reported on previously, but I think it is useful. It is data from the CDC that is on their COVIDNet website. And again, this has a 2-week lag, but it shows hospitalizations according to age group. And I just included students that were 0 to 4, which is kind of that goldish yellow bars, and then 5 to 17-year-olds, which are that darker brown. So again, if you look past, you can see that when we started seeing an increase in cases, we did see an increase in associated hospitalizations in children. So the last bars on the graph to the far right were from the week of January 22nd. So I think it's just a really good visual impact that does show that we did, with increased cases, see increased hospitalizations in students. And again, this is national data. This is not data specific to Minnesota. Again, you can see that the majority of pediatric hospitalizations did not have any known underlying medical conditions. That's the far bar on the right. So again, highest bar represents those students and children that were hospitalized that did not have any underlying health conditions that were known. We've changed the graphs a little bit. We have separated out the recovered students because it skewed the graphs a little bit. So this graph, you're looking at the active cases in students since the beginning of the school year. That's the orange bar, along with the quarantined or excluded cases. So you can see exactly in our students where we had that spike and then the decline since then. So to compare and review the numbers, on January 5th, we had 326 active cases. January 12th, 610 active cases. January 29th, 484 active cases. January 26th, 267 active cases. And then this week's count, February 2nd, 129 active cases. When we look at staff, we see that same pattern continue, sharp spike with a decline. Our numbers for January 5th for staff were 61 active cases, January 12th, 73, January 29th, 94, January 26th, 36 cases, and then February 2nd, 21. So again, as we talked, we separated out the recovered since the numbers were so much larger. These are cumulative numbers. So the blue bar is the recovered number of staff, which is currently at 323. And then the green bar is the number of recovered students, which is currently at 2,250. I've shown these before, so again, I'll just click through the previous months so you can get a sense of where we moved along the continuum. Again, this looks at how Minnesota school districts compare. This was October's data, November's data, December when we started moving to the right of the graph, January, which coincides with the significant spike in case numbers that we saw throughout the buildings. And then here we are settled in February. So to compare those surrounding districts around us, Bloomington is really in the same spot as we are. So we are the black box. Bloomington is right there with us. Over to the right of us, the B is Waconia School District. Y represents St. Louis Park and Eastern Carver County Schools. And then just to the immediate right of us, Q represents Wayzata. And then to the left of us, we have Z, which is Eden Prairie and Edina, and then C, which is West Tonka. So again, that's a snapshot of where we're at and then where we compare to our surrounding communities. Another graphic that I had previously provided that I wanted to just provide an update for you is hospitalizations and deaths in vaccinated versus unvaccinated population. This was updated as of today with data from the end of January, or excuse me, end of December with a lag time. So the left side is the hospitalized, and then the right side is deaths. The blue line represents those that are unvaccinated or not fully vaccinated, and the green line are those that are fully vaccinated. So again, hospitalizations on the left, deaths on the right. So you can see a pretty significant difference between those that are fully vaccinated and those that are not fully vaccinated. Some updates from the CDC on the Omicron variant. Now that we seem to be on the downside of it, we have learned a lot. Again, we assumed, and this seemed to be true, that it was spread more easily than the original virus. We expected that anyone with Omicron could spread it to others. The trend was not as stable as the one we saw with Delta. As we indicated with Delta, once that landed in a home, it tended to take out everybody within that home. Omicron did not necessarily behave in the same way. It oftentimes spared people living in the same household, but it was very unpredictable. So the biggest piece with this is that the boosters have seemingly been effective in preventing severe illness and hospitalization, and which speaks to the importance of the vaccination and boosters. And as we had talked about previously, the Mayo Clinic's model predicted infections would peak between January 26th and February 1st, and then rapidly decline. We have certainly seen a decrease in our cases, so if we continue to see declines next week, this will support that hypothesis. Of course, you've all heard there's another variant right behind, and so as we get deeper and deeper into this, we will certainly have more to learn about all that is behind. And with that, Dr. Ledoux is available to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Annie. Any questions for Dr. Ledoux or Dr. Peterson on the Safe Learning Plan from the board? Any more from you, Dr. Peterson?
One of the questions probably is when will we implement the 5-day quarantine, which is new advice? And as Annie reported at the last meeting, it took a while for the MDH, Minnesota Department of Health, to process the CDC's change in that advice. And I think there were some reasons for that, and I won't get into editorializing on them. But so some of the schools started before that advice came from MDH, and they did not realize there were strings to all of that. And so Annie went over all of those additional criteria. First of all, it's the 5-day quarantining period is not for people who've had, more severe cases or even moderate levels of the virus, but we're really for no symptoms or very mild symptoms. And then there are some testing requirements that go with it and so forth. So we're piloting that with our staff, and we hope to have a recommendation for you soon on what we want to do with students. But if the numbers keep coming down like they seem to be, some of these things won't be as critical to everybody's situation. And of course, with the mask mandate at the high school, that changes some of those quarantining needs and the tracing and all of that. So that's just one of the connections that MDH has made to having people wear masks. And those are not our conclusions, but that's theirs. So other areas you want to know more about or ask about?
Lisa?
Just a follow-up question. Can you talk a little bit about how the pilot is going with staff? And, has it worked, not worked? What have been the challenges?
We've had a few staff take advantage of it. And so it's a small sample at this point. And some of the staff didn't fit the criteria and so forth. So it's still a small sample, but it's worked well for them. And we've been basically able to keep staff in front of students for the past couple weeks.
And then just one other follow-up. Do we know, have other districts, what shifts have they made? I know you often talk with the other superintendents. So in regards to the quarantine, where are some of our neighboring districts at?
Well, even with using that, well, we know that feedback from staff in some of the districts that implemented it right away were very upset about how it happened, because that wasn't the whole story. You can't just change from 10 to 5 days. You have to follow the criteria. So we know that much, that it's been a little bit chaotic in districts that did that. I don't want to call them out. They made their own decisions. I heard the advice at the same time they did, and we chose to be a more cautious path to follow MDH.
Thanks.
Any other questions? And maybe not, it's not something that we can answer tonight. We heard, I would say, a few from the community that talked about COVID funding and tying it to masks or not masks, and how much funds are we getting versus how much is tied to that. I understand you may, the district may need some time to, to put that together, but, or I know you've talked about that before and addressed that before. So maybe it's something that we could pull together if you would want to comment now, or.
No, I didn't realize it was an issue until tonight. We've tried to be transparent with what the spending has been. We know that Minnetonka received quite a bit less money than a lot of other districts, just because of the funding mechanism. And we used ours for mitigation of the situation last year, and try to keep kids in school. And the districts that were keeping kids at home were actually getting 10 times, 15 times the money we were. So just the way Congress chose to dole that money out has been problematic in our opinion. But certainly as far as are we a slave to the federal government for this? No, we're not. So we have the ability to, to spend this money as we need to. But we'll certainly put out a report describing all that.
And are you, I think the comment, I don't want to misspeak, but I think that the comment was that somehow us requiring masks either at the beginning of the year, K through 8, or adding it at the high school was somehow tied to that funding. I mean, I'm not aware of any of that.
Yeah, I'm not either, but we had already made those decisions before the funding ever came along.
Sure.
So we may have met some of their criteria just because we were doing it. But I'll certainly go back and look at all of those criteria.
Yeah, the only comment I would have is that I think, as a board, we should look at the criteria that we're using, to determine, some of these suggestions and recommendations. And what we define as a case and talk about as a case very commonly isn't the same. So the case that we talked about a year ago when this was an outbreak and a pandemic and that sort of thing is very different than the case that we count today. And so if we call all cases the same, that's a misrepresentation. I think we should look at that. And then, I think we should provide some sort of endpoint saying that, if the morbidity, mortality, and the sequelae from the cases, equal that of flu, then that's a criteria, or, a suggestion that we would then kind of lessen what we're doing.
I think that's reasonable, absolutely.
Any other questions? Katie?
At the study session, I shared then to you and administration, to our MTA, thank you for all the work that went into working with the streaming for students that are at home quarantined. Can you touch base on that? How has it been utilized these last couple of weeks?
Thank you for raising that. That model, which really ends Monday, I believe. Or
Yeah.
Maybe tomorrow, with Monday being the start of not having it that way. We're still looking at ways that teachers can continue to do some of that, but it's outside of the agreement now that we had with the MTA. So we had a trial period. It worked well, and I think all of us believe that some of the teachers will just continue to do what we've been doing. And they've all had the choice to do that all along. But the streaming issue was very important to the teachers at the start of the year when we did negotiations. That was their number one priority, that we not be requiring them to stream. And so, we've worked out the best agreement we can with them, and I think it served both teachers and students.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for working with the teachers to do that, and thank you to the teachers for providing that for our students during the surge. So thanks for the update on it.
Yep.
I have a question for the board, and I will preface it. While we can't have discussion about the safe learning plan without a motion on the table, just more of a scheduling question. So we added a mask mandate for the high school that will automatically sunset on, I believe, February 25th. We have a study session on the 24th, and I just would like to get the temperature of the board. I guess I would throw out, again, not without discussing the plan, is the board's expectation, or I guess majority, that we would have a special meeting scheduled, or, we can have a report, but, without a special meeting, we couldn't act on anything, and we don't need to necessarily. I'm just wondering, I just want to make sure while we're all together and we're here. So if anybody has any thoughts on that or expectations, I just don't remember what that expectation was from the study session. Mark, does that? Are you remembering the same as me?
I wasn't here.
Yeah, that's true.
I would be inclined to have a special session to decide that.
And so what we did, I should have started, what we did last time is we had a special meeting with the Safe Learning Plan update, and so that we can have open discussion without worrying about a motion or anything like that.
You mean study session?
Study session, I'm not sure what I said. And then we had a special meeting afterwards with something about the Safe Learning Plan. We could do that again if we decide in that study session that we don't need to change anything or pull anything forward, then we just won't have the special meeting. Is that?
And then it would just expire.
Correct. Yeah, we wouldn't need it if we didn't have anything to pull forward. And there could be other things that we could utilize that special meeting for, but.
So we should.
Seemed like it would be prudent, given that the data we have is always still coming in a little bit late, so it'd be nice to have the opportunity to review that data, and, we've got the meeting already for the study session. We can have that agenda and do the same practice as last time.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would agree that we should probably schedule a special session after that as a placeholder, you know, in case we have more data and decide that we don't want it to expire and we want to act on it.
Yeah, I would agree. I just wanted to make sure, since we were all here, and then now we have plenty of communication to the board, to the public, that that's our intention. We'll get everything posted, and as we go into agenda planning, you know, Mark and I will that's how we'll proceed. Okay, great. Any other questions for Dr. Peterson? Moving on, we are moving on to the approval of the superintendent search leadership profile. This is our item. I just like the safe learning plan, before turning it over to the search committee, just set the tone expectations for this item. From my standpoint, if we can talk about it. BWP is here, and it will present an overview of the process of developing the leadership profile, some of the results that we can ask questions from of the process or of those things, and then you know, and I would bring attention to our carry-in action, and we're approving the superintendent leadership profile tonight. So in order to talk about or have discussion about the leadership profile itself, we would need a motion on the table that's seconded, and then we can go through discussion. So the board should refrain, or you know, we should refrain from discussing that standpoint until we get to that motion. Is that what everybody is expecting, or
Yeah.
Okay. I will turn it over to the subcommittee. Lisa, I assume?
Sure. Okay, so I think we have everybody on from our BWP team. And as you just mentioned, Chair Vitale, we're going to have a presentation from BWP and their team about the stakeholders engagement report, and then they're going to review the leadership profile with us. That should be about a 20-minute presentation. Again, chance for board members to ask questions about the process, the engagement report, and some of the strengths and challenges that were identified. And then we'll move into the leadership profile process. And if we have a motion and a second, then we'll be able to talk specifically about that profile and whether, you know, it meets our expectations and all that sort of thing. But I think that it's important first to hear the full presentation from BWP about all of the efforts that went into the development of that, because they were extensive. So I will turn it over to Phil Earhart of BWP to get his team on board and present.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Board members, thank you very much for having us on this evening. We thought we'd just do a quick introduction of our team, just to refresh your memory with that. Anne, do you want to start for us by just giving a brief introduction of yourself?
Certainly. I'm Ann Noland. I'm a partner in BWP Associates. I've been with the firm for approximately 15 years now.
Steve?
I'm Steve Griesbach, and like Dan, I'm a partner. I've been with the firm for 9 years.
And I am Phil Earhart. I've been with the firm for 11 years and 5 years as a partner for that. What we'd like to do at this time is provide you with a presentation regarding the insights that we were able to gain through the process, which we will explain through the development of the superintendent leadership profile. We have the next slide, please. The superintendent leadership profile, we thought we'd give you just a little foundation on what the purpose of it is. It describes the desired attributes, skills, characteristics, and experiences. Secondly, it's based on the stakeholder information that we've gathered from the individual board interviews, focus groups, and the online survey. It also is used to help BWP and our partners to screen applicants to determine which ones best fit the needs for the school district. Finally, it really provides the guidance and direction to the board on helping them select the new superintendent. Have the next slide, please. Here are the 3 data sources that were used to compile the report and leadership profile. We had 32 focus groups, which was a wide variety of school community members, which was wonderful to have to get that kind of input. We had 29 focus groups that were very specific in their focus. We had 3 community open sessions and 275 participants for the focus groups. We thought the board would be interested in knowing that the length of the focus groups ranged anywhere from 30 minutes to 105 minutes. In a moment, Ann's going to talk to you about the survey. We were very pleased of having 3,562 respondents for that. And then Steve is going to talk to you about the focus groups. And of course, we had individual interviews of the board members as well. So at this point, if we could turn to the next slide, and Steve is going to give you an overview of the focus groups. Steve?
Thank you very much, Phil. We were very pleased with the number of people who wanted to participate in these focus groups. This was in addition to their life or their days, and we had the students, administrators, certificated and non-certificated staff, community leaders, board members and former board members, parent leadership groups like boosters, the PTA, PTO, and many others who joined in on the open forums. We take all of the information that we gather and we create what we call a frequency distribution list. So we're looking at the most common themes that appear, the 3 major questions that we ask. And so the information I'm going to present to you is a compilation of those comments. The first question we asked every single group were about the points of pride about the Minnetonka Public Schools. And I'm sure there are no surprises to those of you who follow the schools and are actively engaged in it. You have a strong reputation for an excellent educational program.
Can we go to the next slide, please?
Thank you, Bill. And that's reflected in the strong student performance in many areas. You have a very involved community that cares deeply about its schools, and a rich and extensive educational program. One comment that stuck out in my mind in one of the groups that I spoke with was we constantly look for new ways to serve students, and that's reflected in the innovative programs that we've adopted over the years. You also have a very good staff that really cares about what they're doing. And you've done really well at managing your resources. Open enrollment has provided stability and resources to the school district. The next slide looks at are the themes that came out of the question we asked about what are the challenges and issues facing the school district in the next year or 5 years. And the first one that came up was an issue around that sense of belonging. It came back to, we heard comments in the open comments from the community about equity, diversity, inclusion, and how that's going to be handled within your school district. We also heard about the importance of well-being, the social and emotional needs of students, and that's of all students. We looked at maintaining your financial resources, whether that be the open enrollment success that you've had, future referenda, and maybe the uncertainty of support from outside state finance or federal funds. We also know that some facilities are at capacity. We heard from people saying that they felt at some schools there was some overcrowding, some staffing needs. Like every school district, the pandemic is creating some real challenges, and yours is no different. And then finally, you have strong support from the schools, and that's broadly based, but there are a lot of different viewpoints there about policies and procedures, curriculum and instruction. And there are lots of voices that are in the community, and they're maybe more open and more strident than they've been in the past. So those are all there, and those are some of the challenges I think you're well aware of. That's what we heard in talking to the groups, and those are the major themes that emerged. And finally, the last question we asked, what are the personal characteristics and the skills and experiences the next superintendent needs to have to be successful there? And if we look at the next slide, we have them listed there. They are not listed in any priority order. They're just listed. And so, I think what we're looking at is a variety of different things having to do with finances, as we heard. The referenda experience has been successful there, but past success is not a guarantee of future support. So you want to make sure you're there. You want to maintain and build on what you're doing in all areas. So that's one of the themes that came across in the next superintendent, skills, characteristics, experiences. We also see that some of them address some of the concerns that were voiced in the various groups. And so you'll see some of the same themes here also in the community survey, which is an even broader look at the views of the communities that you serve. So I'm going to turn that over to my colleague Ann, and we can advance to the next slide and keep pushing forward.
Yeah, next slide, please. There we go. So we launched a survey, and I'm sure most of the people listening and participating tonight took part in that survey. The purpose of launching the survey was to get quantitative information, to go along with the qualitative information that you heard Steve talking about. We have a third party in BWP that monitors and launches the survey. The three of us do not see the results at all until they are completed and taken down and the survey has expired. So we were very pleased and excited to see that we had 3,562 participants in the survey. That's a very large turnout, and we were excited to see that. We worked with some districts that were much larger that didn't have this type of a turnout. So I think we can be proud of your community for participating and thank them for the efforts they took to quickly complete the survey. If you look at who the people were who responded to the survey, you can see that the percent of residents and the percent of parents of former students, and then your employees, of course. I want to draw your attention to the two at the bottom of the list. 18.9% of the survey respondents were students. I don't think that we've ever seen anything like this. We offer our survey to students in every district, and we always have students participate, but not to this degree. And then I think it's also good to note that the volunteers in your schools took the time and care to complete the survey. So that's the demographics of the survey. If you could turn to the next slide, please. We asked similar questions on the survey to the ones we asked the focus groups. And so the first one listed are the district's strengths. And as you remember, you took the survey, you had to identify the top strengths. And these are not in any particular order, but the strengths that were identified include the teachers, the excellent teaching staff, the reputation, which we heard earlier, the options and the programs for the students, supportive community, the available resources, and once again, the academic excellence in the district. Those were the strengths according to the survey. Again, this is just the raw data at this point. And then if you put the next slide, we'll look at the challenges. Thank you. So the challenges, according to the survey, were to recruit and retain top personnel, and the cultural sensitivity and intelligence, and that would be the belonging, diversity, equity, inclusion efforts in the district. Too much growth, and that would result in some facility limitations and perception of overcrowding and buildings being at near capacity. And then community relations and communication to all stakeholders. We didn't think here that we're referring so much to the report that Dr. Getty gave, but just the monumental task, the district your size and the community your size, of communicating to everyone. And then the next thing was curriculum. And again, not in any special order, but these were the top 5 challenges that were noted on the survey. Next slide, please. So again, we asked for leadership skills and personal traits on the survey. So you can see, again, I keep stressing that they're not in any order. Communication, financial skills, managerial skills, interpersonal skills, public relations skills, and organizational skills. So you can see many of these tie back to some of the challenges noted. And then on a personal level, of course, we want someone with integrity and sound judgment and a commitment and a vision and a team builder. So those were the things listed for the personal. That concludes the report on the survey, and then we're going to tie it all together in the next portion of our presentation with the actual leadership profile.
The next slide, please.
So I would say, should we stop and ask questions or if the board has questions up to that point?
About the process, sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
That'd be great.
And just any questions or comments from the board?
I had one. So for the results, for the focus groups and for the survey, were the frequency of responses reflected in the way that they were ordered on the list, or was that kind of an arbitrary arrangement?
Arbitrary.
Okay.
Good question, just at random.
I have one more, actually.
Sure.
So on the district challenges, you said in the survey results, curriculum was referenced a lot. Can you give some context to that? Was it the difficulty of the curriculum or the content in the curriculum? Or was there any more information about what the concern was about that?
The curriculum was mentioned in the survey. We also heard that someone in the focus group, and the main concept that we heard was just more communication to parents especially on what the curriculum is that is actually being taught in the classroom.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Phil. I think that would have been reflecting the comments we heard in the focus groups.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan.
Steve, would you agree with that?
Yes, the only thing I might add is that there was a sense that there's a lot of evolution in the curriculum, and that can be challenging as staff handles multiple priorities and implementing new initiatives.
Yeah, that's a good point as well, Steve.
Anyone else? And I'm sure we'll do it again. I just take the time from the board to thank the 32 focus groups, the 3,562 people, and of course our 7 board members that participated, in this. Great.
Yep.
Move on to the leadership profile.
Okay, so I think that it would be useful to have Phil go through the leadership profile or whoever was going to from BWP, just to give us the information, and then we can make a motion and have discussion, so.
Perfect.
Thank you, Lisa. We will do that. We're going to share this responsibility on this. I will start out. The first one is a relationship builder with all, with exceptional interpersonal skills. Steve?
A highly personable leader who is able to make tough decisions and demonstrate sound judgment and integrity.
Okay, a leader fully invested in the Minnetonka community, accessible and visible, and an advocate for continuing to work in belonging, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
A uniter who engages and listens to all stakeholders. considering diverse viewpoints as part of the decision-making process, and clearly communicates the rationale for the decision.
A visionary leader who can clearly articulate a better Minnetonka and is able to facilitate plans for greater cognitive and social-emotional growth.
An experienced and successful administrator who is financially savvy with strong managerial and delegation skills that bring about the best in others.
And lastly, an inclusive and collaborative decision maker. Again, board, these bullets are not in any order of importance, but have just been listed on there.
Okay.
Great. I will open it up for motions. Lisa?
I would like to make a motion that we approve the leadership profile based on the extensive survey and community feedback as presented.
Is there a second?
Second?
Second is Katie. All right, I'll open it up for discussion. Anybody want to start? Lisa?
Sure. So I think that we got a significant amount of feedback, and I think it might be helpful, Phil and team, if you all are, able to share a little bit about this, but I believe that, the BWP team has heard all of the feedback and is best able to condense and consolidate that feedback into truly representing what they heard from everyone. And so that's the reason for my motioning it as presented. I don't feel that I, as one person who didn't participate in all of that listening, can make changes to this document, so.
Good. Thank you, Lisa. Anybody else?
So this is a lot of work, and thank you again to all the community members who participated in all the information that you had to put together for the document. It is great to hear so many students were involved and that you shared that is unusual in some of the searches that you've done in the past. One thing that I don't know if it would be considered a friendly amendment, or one thing that I wanted to ask the board about possibly Minnetonkaizing the document like we have done in the past. But when I read this is a really thorough profile, but when we talk about belonging, it is capital B, belonging. And then diversity, equity, inclusion is really that, when we defined it, that was like the parentheses of what belonging is. So one thing that I was thinking is, for somebody out there who is not from Minnetonka reading this, I'm wondering if that would define that a little bit better, what, we at Minnetonka talk about belonging when you look at our goals. And then the other one that I was wondering about, capitalizing excellence in that third bullet from the bottom, a visionary leader who can clearly articulate, because we talk about excellence, again, capital E, as our academic excellence being really, the heart of what Minnetonka is. So those are two things. This is a really thorough profile, but I was trying to look at it from the eyes of somebody who is looking at it. So that's what I was thinking about. And I don't know if that's considered a friendly amendment or if it's changed. I don't know.
Sure. Just could I piggyback with a question, and maybe BWP or the subcommittee? Can we, to Katie's question about Minnetonkaizing it, how is this, what part of this document is going to be used and posted, and in what format? I know we'll probably post it to our search timeline, but how will this document be used? And maybe that would help with, let's start there before we decide on maybe a friendly amendment. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Lisa?
So Phil, I guess I would let you start and answer that question of how BWP uses the profile, and then I can explain what we're intending to do from the search subcommittee with the document. So
I'll be happy to do that, and Stephen Ann will assist me with this. So what we'll be doing is this will be posted on the BWP website tomorrow. And then we would like this also posted on the Minnetonka website along with the report and the survey results. And so much time and effort of the participants would put into this, we think it'd be important to publicize this. As our BWP team, we will take this leadership profile and we will take that to use that as we identify candidates that best meet this profile for us to interview. And we will conduct our interviews. At the conclusion of those interviews, the three of us will then assess each of the candidates, and of those, which ones best match the leadership profile that we have here, in order to identify those candidates that would move forward for us to recommend to the board to consider to interview for the first round. Ann or Steve, is there anything else you would add to that?
Yeah, yes, I just add one thing, Phil. We post this on our website for a couple of reasons, and one of it is, we've got some candidates that have, of course, applied for the position, and they are anxious to see exactly what you're looking for. So it certainly informs the candidates as well as, so we use it to do our screening, but I think it informs them too as to what their match is for the position. So that's another use of the profile.
Thank you. Did they?
Yeah, the other thing is you'll get a rubric when we talk about candidates, you're going to get a scoring rubric, which will incorporate some of the things that are listed here as well. So that's multiple purposes.
Thank you. Lisa, and then Patrick?
And then just to reiterate, our intention, as we had mentioned at the beginning of the process, was that once this document was developed, it would get presented and posted on our website under the superintendent search. Obviously, the minutes from tonight's meeting and the video of tonight's meeting would be available. And then the survey data itself, which the board members have at their tables right now, would also be posted so that the community can see that, and the community members that participated in the survey would have access to that. So, I mean, everyone would, but,
Yep.
so.
Thank you, Lisa. Patrick?
Yeah, I had a question. It may be more of a BWP question, but perhaps the committee, the subcommittee or BWP can answer. In the years where you've used this sort of a tool as part of the screening, could you describe a little bit how it's used? Is this, there's a number of criteria here. Is this a filter? Is this you have to meet all these criteria to get presented, or is these aspirational? And I have a guess, but I'd like to hear how you have used it in the past.
In the past, we've used that to help us provide guidance as we look at the candidates. It's very rare that any candidate meets exactly each one of these profile components of it. So we use that as a filter for us to assist with that. Steve and Ann, what else would you add to that?
We also use it when we interview candidates to develop questions to tease out from their experiences how well they match the leadership profile. And so it's useful in that way as well. And we also use it when we work with boards to help them to come together around consensus. Because a person may have a feeling about a candidate, but let's go back to what the data says. And you have some really rich data here that was filtered down into this leadership profile that can provide a lot of guidance as you discuss the relative merits of the candidates you will be that we will present to you.
I'd say that a third thing, or maybe you mentioned more than three already, but another thing would be, as we do our research on the candidates through our Google and our background checks and finding out more about the candidate, we look for some evidence of some of the things that we've listed here too. So we look for something concrete in their work or in people's words about them that would let us know that the candidate actually had some credibility in these areas.
Patrick?
I've also used it when I do reference checks. There's a question but we do both formal and informal references. The formal references are the ones that are given us, and the informal ones are the people we know through our network. And these topics come up as we work with the references to see how they handle certain situations that might be related to leading in Minnetonka.
Great. Mark?
Yeah, just to address the motion, as far as accepting the leadership profile, I appreciate that it reflects community feedback, board feedback. To address Katie's point, I personally not that interested in really Minnetonka-izing it. Is that a word? At this point?
It's a made-up word.
Yeah, you know, at this point, appreciating that we want to cast a rather broad profile, in that each of the bullet points are points that we hold in our community holds to be important. When it gets down to the really Minnetonka-izing it, I'm really proud I can say that. We can do that, I think, when we get to interview the finalists, you know, when we really start, you know, honing in. So I'd be fine with what we're seeing here.
Yeah.
You know, to the point, what I did like about what Katie said was that, not necessarily the Minnetonka's, you know, izing it or whatever word you kind of came up with, but I like what you said about really defining and being clear on the definition. Like when I look at this leadership profile, it says excellence, but it doesn't say anywhere about academic excellence. And like, I think that's important. You know, and so like you said, I think, you know, defining some of these things a little bit better, I think is probably important.
Call on myself. Just to piggyback on that a little bit, Katie, what you talked a little bit about, and John, I think you talked a little bit about belonging and excellence, I think are the two things that you talked about. John, you talked about kind of the definitions, and I know when we went and wrote our goals for this year, one thing that we were, or I guess technically this school year, last year, one of the things that we did was we created definitions for some of the terms that we had. We have definitions that the board has approved for belonging and well-being, I believe. And, you know, I'm wondering, to Katie's point, I also agree with Mark and Lisa that, you know, we weren't in all of these. We've hired BWP, and we should probably honor that process. But I do think that there could be some minor, I don't even know that it changes, but not that everybody that's reading this, but if it's online, if we could link to, you know, our definition for belonging and well-being are the two things that, I don't know if that fundamentally changes this. I think feedback from BWP, but if it's going to be posted everywhere, to me, that could address a little bit of what you guys were talking about without fundamentally changing it. I don't know whose hand came up first. We'll go with Megan because she hasn't talked yet.
Well, I would kind of echo what Mark was saying in that I really like that the survey results and the focus results, they were very consistent. And so I think that says something to it being representative of the community. I would hope that anybody applying for the position of a superintendent of a school district is going to go to the school district website anyway and take a look at what the goals are and what the vision is. And so I would personally prefer to stick with the language that BWP heard. And so if they heard from the community that these are the specific words and that's what they picked out for the profile, I think we would be doing a disservice to that process and to the community if we then changed it. Just having not been in those focus groups and having not seen that specific language, I would kind of echo sticking with what they came up with.
This is
Yeah.
this would be a question for BWP. When you're talking to potential candidates, would you be bringing into the conversation our goals? Would that come up at all? So would you, as you're talking to someone, would you say, okay, here are our profile, and these are the two Minnetonka board goals for this year? Would you address that with each of the candidates?
Yes, we would. That's all part of the picture. We would do that as well, yes.
Okay.
Done?
Yeah.
I definitely want to honor all of the work that was put into this from our community members, and I don't want to fundamentally change it at all. So I want to make that clear, because I really want to honor it. I was more thinking of belonging and excellence as two, not only is it a 2020, 21, no, whatever year we're in, 21, 22, goal, they really are visionary multi-year goals, and to me, when I look at this, belonging and excellence would just be two words that maybe I would have capitalized it differently, you know, so I'm okay if we don't change it, because I don't fundamentally want to change anything. I really want to honor our community's input on this. It was really just more of a question in define, you know, to highlight those words.
Lisa and Mark?
Maybe BWP, you guys can illuminate a little bit on why you capitalized the words that you did in the leadership profile, the ones that are in all caps.
Those are the ones that we thought captured the essence of what we would be looking for with that. And then we try to, if you look at the third bullet from the bottom, I know there's a comment made about academic excellence. What we try to do is put in there about continuous excellence and is able to facilitate plans for cognitive, which we thought was hitting that academic area of that, but also the social, emotional, and the well-being growth with that as well. But those are just like the top ones, and as Steve had mentioned, when we meet with the board and look at interview questions, those are some of the key concepts that we would try to make sure that we emphasize in the interview questions that both we do and also that the board would use as well. Stephen, anything else you'd like to add to that?
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good too.
In pursuant to the conversation, that's why I asked BWP about if they would address our goals specifically, because to my thinking, that would add and really flesh out to any candidate what we're about, because then they can see our goals, see that they are multi-year, see specifically what we mean about these things.
Yeah, I'm absolutely okay leaving it. I'm not, and I know those things are very important to our community and to the board. They were our goals, so that's why I just was thinking about highlighting it. But I don't want to change the document, because I really want to honor the work that the community did, and so I'm okay. It really was more for a point of conversation and discussion.
Sure.
Anybody else? Last thing I would say, in our mission statement, I think it says we will be a world-class child-centered excellence district, and we don't have excellence bold in our leadership profile. We found in our goal process that, you know, excellence is first and foremost in what we do, and the board has always thought that. You know, we changed our goals and added that statement here, and number one, it should be first on any list is excellence, regardless of if it's random or not, and to not have excellence, to only have excellence once in this, number one, I think is a mistake. But again, I don't want to change things because we've hired BWP in order to do that. But I would make a friendly amendment that we at least capitalize excellence in this document. It doesn't fundamentally change it. It honors, I think, all of the work that's in there. But I know it's a small thing in a document, but it's not a small thing in Minnetonka. Lisa looks.
I would accept unless, BWP, you have a great monumental reason why you think I'm altering the document significantly, but I would accept capitalizing excellence as a friendly amendment. I think I think you've made an excellent point. So, and I do think we are all about excellence, and I think that, the mission statement and the vision document, which obviously are being shared with the candidates, really drives that home. And I know we all know that, but I'm just reiterating it. And I was going to make some other point, and now I've completely forgotten what it was. So I'm sure it was a really great one.
Okay, so I made a friendly amendment. You've accepted it to your motion.
Yes.
Do we have to vote on that friendly
No,
amendment?
because I accepted it as a
Because you
friendly
accepted it?
amendment.
That's
Okay.
included, yeah.
All right. Any other comments or discussion?
Gosh, I wish I could remember what I was going to say.
Lisa, you'd asked the question, is there any problem with that with BWP? That doesn't change the content at all, so that's not a problem at all. We understand the importance of excellence, and putting that in uppercase is totally fine with us, and we'd make that change and then pass that on so it would be distributed properly.
Yeah, we don't see that as anything that changes what we heard, so.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. It doesn't change what you heard, right?
Same.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I can remember what I was going to say, if I could. I would, to John's point about academic excellence, I think that's very important, but I think we've talked a lot about excellence in all areas being important, so I wouldn't be interested in narrowing that excellence to just academics. I mean, I think that we spend a lot of time in all of our materials, even our annual report, talking about excellence in all areas, so I wouldn't want to confine excellence into too small of a box. So that's what I was going to say.
Great. Anybody else? So we have a motion on the table that's been seconded. No more discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have our leadership profile.
Thank you, board.
Thank you, BWP.
Thank you, BWP.
Thank you, BWP.
Thank you.
We do have one more slide just to quickly give you an overview of so what's next. If we can turn to that, please. I'm not going to read that, but just to refresh your memory more that these are the next steps we will be having with that. I know those are already on your calendar. In behalf of BWP, we really do appreciate all the participation we had from a variety of stakeholders. We would especially like to thank Lisa Wagner, Gary Foltz, Jackie Getty, and Amy Hillstrom for all the assistance they did in helping us put our presentation together. We really appreciate that and their support as well as the board. So thank you very much, and we look forward to the next steps.
Phil and Steve, thank you so much for your work so far. We are looking forward to these next steps as well. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye. Good evening.
Okay, next up is the sale of our 2022A bonds for VANTAGE Momentum Building. I would point out to the board that this is a carry-in action, so please refer to those documents with the latest bond documents. Sorry, Dr. Peterson.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, this is a big step. It's the first bonds for the VANTAGE Momentum Building that you've determined that you want to have built, and the project has had review and comment from the Department of Education, and it's on the agenda for the Planning Commission and the City Council in Minnetonka, so it's moving forward. This is the first opportunity now that you've had to finish the bonds, because the review and comment kind of determined the timing of all that, and you had to publish in the local paper, your official paper, for a period of time for, all of this being put forward. So Mr. Bourgeois is going to talk through the climate for bonds right now and the results that we got. Mr. Bourgeois.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson, Mr. Chair, members of the board. We sold our $7 million 2022A bonds yesterday. Sales started at 9 o'clock and they flew off the shelf. We were done by 10.
Wow.
So there was a good appetite for them. The rate that we had, were able to get was a total interest cost of 3.30%. You gotta remember, these are 30-year bonds, so that's a very good rate for them. A little bit higher than if we'd been able to sell before Christmas. But as you know, last year we restructured and refinanced about $65 million worth of bonds because we pretty much knew it was the low point of rates for probably a while, and they are starting to head up. So we're still getting in while the getting's good, so to speak. And it was a good sale, and so the money will be in the bank in March, and we're going to be ready to break ground as soon as we can get our permit. We request that you approve the sale of the bonds.
Paul, do you want to talk about the Moody's rating?
Oh, sure. We were able to maintain our AAA bond rating. We've had the AAA bond rating since 2009. And actually there's a list of criteria that Moody's now uses, and they actually publish it as part of their rating, and we're going to go through that with the Finance Advisory Committee, because there's different components of it. It's very interesting, but we were able to maintain our AAA bond rating.
Great, and just a question and maybe just information for the board. So is it every time we go out for bond issue that we have to get rated, correct?
Yes.
So, which we do pretty much every year. But it's great to continue to have that AAA bond rating. Any questions? Well, sorry. Can I have a motion to approve the 2022A sale resolution as prepared by Dorsey Whitney?
So moved.
Second. Mark and John, any discussion? Any questions for Mr. Bourgeois? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
Lisa, second.
Second.
Katie, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Board reports. Does any of the board have a report to share? Patrick?
I'll just report that I was able to attend the MMW PTO meeting last week, and we had a great discussion about interfacing with the board, and they were very enthusiastic to have board members and encourage you all to feel free to attend future meetings. And they wanted to give a special shout out to how happy they are with their current principal, Freya Schermacher, so I want to make sure that I recognize them and her in this meeting. So.
That's great. Thank you, Patrick. Anybody else? Superintendent's report. Dr. Peterson.
I don't have a lot to report. We are, of course, implementing the mask requirement that the board passed 2 weeks ago at the high school. It's, to put it mildly, it's challenging. It's very difficult to get young people of that age who have not been required to wear a mask to suddenly start wearing the appropriate masks and wearing them all the time and all of that. So it's certainly affecting the relationship between teachers and staff and students. It's going to be challenging to keep doing this. So that's one thing that has happened. We are into our second semester now, and I'll be sharing some of the results of the first semester with you as soon as I can. And I think it's been a successful fall. People are tired of COVID, and you go out in the community, and almost any gathering, people are trying to be back to normal. If I wear a mask, I'm probably the only one there with a mask, and people are just trying to get back to normal. So, our kids see that and feel that, and they really want to be done with COVID too. And Americans are not patient people, really. We would like to get back to doing what we do. And so I think we're determined to have a great semester, a great finish to the year. As we've informed you, graduation had to be moved because of the venue making a different decision, and obviously that didn't go without somebody complaining about it, but it's what we really needed to do if we we're going to keep that venue. And really there are no other venues now available for us without doing what we did a couple of years ago of 8 graduations or whatever we had at athletic field. You know, those are things that break up the class and don't pull them together. So, you know, we're determined to have our graduates this year who have put up with COVID for 3 years of their high school time leave on a happy note. So happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board for Dr. Peterson? Great, any announcements? All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Lisa, second?
Second.
John? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, board. Thank you, everybody.